It's Cobbs in motion. It's Tagovailoa circling out of the pocket again and sprinting down the sideline. He's got Bunk in front of him and a touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
In the Michigan territory, Stroud winds up, throws a deep ball sideline. Caught! Touchdown! Marvin Harrison Jr.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
From the 30-yard line, Singleton with running room. And then he turns on the Jets past the 50-yard line. Stays in bounds. They will not catch up. Singleton all the way.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
McCarthy under pressure, back shoulder throw, caught. Cornelius Johnson breaking it, still on his feet. Cornelius Johnson sprinting. Touchdown Michigan, 69 yards.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
If you're Tulane. Pratt going to take out his do-it-yourself kit and picks up the first down.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
And that's picked off. Roadrunners have it. Need some blocks, and this could be 6. The blocks are made inside the 10, the 5, touchdown. D'Adrian Taylor.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Welcome in, 365 Sports. It is a gift from the college football news gods that we got yesterday that instead of talking in the abstract about realignment, we can actually talk about something happening as Colorado on their way to the Big 12. It appears that it will be official at about 4:30 this afternoon after the board meets to approve that last night. The Big 12 presidents and whatever you want to call that group, all voted unanimously to invite Colorado into the Big 12. So now almost all the formalities are out of the way, and the Big 12 is now 13 teams, will be 13 teams strong and waiting on another. We don't know, obviously, who the next target could be or would be coming, but there's the other schools in the Pac-12, and there's a lot of smoke about UConn. I think UConn is one of those things that if everything else doesn't work out or they're down the line, but Brett Yormark really likes the idea of UConn. So before you kind of dive into what about UConn coming next, I don't think they would be next unless no one else comes to the Big 12. But right now, I think that the writing's on the wall for the Pac-12, and I'm very curious, Craig, as to how they swim out of this water.
Well, hey, what's up, chat? Hope everybody's doing good today, and glad to be back. 2 days until vacation. Not that I'm counting or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, definitely a gift from the college football news gods, as you put it, yesterday. And yes, it's amazing to be able to talk about actual real deal moving parts and real deal stories that aren't just, sources or this could happen or this might happen or whatever. And, just time goes on and nothing seemingly ever changes. I know there was a big shift and actual change yesterday as we were on the air. And, yeah, here we are. And here in about an hour and a half, it looks like we could be officially talking about the re-entry of the Colorado Buffaloes into the Big 12 as a member for the second time. And, you mentioned a lot of things there. We can unpack them all throughout the show today. But I think just the first and foremost biggest thing is, yeah, congrats to Colorado. And what a deal that is for them to decide to just not wait any longer and go take the money where they know the money can be taken and go get a little bit more exposure based on the information they have at hand. And you know what? Go back where they started. It's not like they were always a Pac-12 team and it's like, oh my gosh, they're leaving 100 years of history. No, they were a Big 12 team. I think sometimes we lose sight of that just because of where they've been recently. So this is coming back home in so many ways. And I'm still surprised. I don't know if shocked is as extreme of a word as I would use, but definitely still just kind of taken aback by how quickly that seemed to move yesterday, and just excited that, another step will be taken here in just a little while. And then, as you said, we can kind of go from there. 13's not going to be 13. It's going to be, a nice round number, I would think. And if you want to unpack, the UConn part of this, I said earlier in the week, and I saw there was a UConn account that were like, the reports state UConn's not getting in. I didn't say that I was reporting that. I said that I don't think that UConn is getting into the conference. And, hey, I didn't think a Pac-12 team was going to make the jump. And then Colorado was like, screw you guys. We're bailing. And, I'm happy to be wrong in that case. I'm happy that I was wrong about, a Pac school. But with UConn, yeah, I still think that that's not some slam dunk that we hear in the next 24 hours right after Colorado, and then your mark's like, hey, we got our 14. I think that, particularly given the Colorado situation, you're going to wait and see what the rest of the Pac-12 has to say. I mean, that's a bigger target. That's a Power 5 brand, whether you're talking about your Utahs or your Oregon or whoever you want to throw out there for discussion. But, yeah, I think you're going to wait and see what you can get maybe out of that, and what else you can squeeze from that fruit. And, if UConn eventually is a part of that mix, I think that they, at worst for now, remain in the periphery, or they're still in eyesight. They're still within arm's length. And I think they're still receptive, and you're obviously receptive to them. But if you can go scoop in and grab, one of these other schools out west, then I think that that's the far more, prudent move to make. And I think that those involved also realize that. So I know it's your Mark's deal that, UConn would make a lot of sense, the Northeast and closer to NYC and East Coast and all those types of things. But I think most eyes are out west right now, and rightfully so. And that all starts with Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, I think that, there's a lot to unpack with everything that went on. I keep thinking back to George Kliavkov answering a question like, are you worried about the Big 12 poaching any of your schools? And his quote was, that's not a concern at all. We have bigger fish to fry. A round of realignment is done. And then less than a week later, that exact scenario happened, which has now happened to him several times. We'll get a TV deal done, before the, they're the market for the Big 12, flat-footed. USC and UCLA, flat-footed. Of course, I'm not going in sequence here. It's just the way they're putting me here. Colorado, flat-footed. I mean, all these things, the Alliance, for God's sakes, flat-footed. So, the Pac-12 is burdened by some really troubling leadership, I think, from Larry Scott. And I don't know, I'm not sure George Kliavkov stepped into the situation that, you interview for a job sometimes and you walk in and you think, man, this is going to be great. And you start doing that job and you're like, man, this was not what the interview was about. And not that I'm taking that off of him, but I do think that he stepped into a situation that was a little more thorny than he maybe thought it was going to be. And then I do think that part of the problem the entire time since USC and UCLA left is that the remaining schools, and particularly several of the power brokers in this, when it comes to negotiating the media deal, think that LA is still part of their footprint when it's not. Because they're like, well, we have tons of alumni in LA. Yeah, but the two schools that live in it are gone now. So you're not going to be playing road games there. Like, none of those things that your alumni are going to be excited about are happening in LA anymore. None of the television that you were excited about is happening in LA anymore. So it's over. And I think that they had Los Angeles in their mind as part of their viable markets, and they're like, yeah, UCLA and USC are gone, but that doesn't mean that they own LA. Yes, they do. They live there. That would be like, Baylor leaving, and well, I mean, that's not the case because A&M and Texas still have large footprints here, but the Cowboys leaving Dallas, and they're like, no, the NFL's, we're fine. They're moved to London. We're fine. We don't worry about Dallas people watching them again. It's just the team that lived there is gone. You can't just say it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's aired it in a lot of different ways, Paul. Not speaking really at all for the last year while all of this stuff was going on. And now I was at a red light. I looked down on my phone for a second, just 1 second. Wasn't looking at it any more than that. Of course, I drive by the rules. I obey all laws on the road at all times. But I saw a tweet, and I thought it was from Dan Wetzel, and maybe not because now I can't find it. So maybe it's Dan Wilkin, and maybe not because now I can't find it. So now I can't find where that tweet came from. I'll try to track it down. But it was speaking of George Kliavkoff, and it was a quote from him, I think, from today or something, where he was talking about, or his report of what he was saying about how they were surprised by Colorado. And I think every quote tweet I saw was like, how are you possibly surprised by Colorado leaving? You've literally had an entire year of rumor mill stuff going on surrounding your conference with every team under the sun named, but particularly the Four Corner schools, which includes Colorado. And they were quiet for a majority of the time. And yes, there were times Rick George or someone would come out and speak, and they'd say the same things that leave you rest assured that everything's going to be okay in the end. But there was way too much smoke going on for him to have been blindsided in any way. And if he was, he needs to be fired. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I don't call for people's jobs, but that's buffoonery if you didn't have any idea that Colorado or any other school for that matter could potentially leave. That's just not doing your job, because it's literally been talked about to death to the point where they refuse to even talk about it. It's being talked about so much because they don't want to throw any more gasoline on it. And meanwhile, I guess they have people that just go and they try to brush off any report that said otherwise, and they, paint a label on it. It's 12 and on, it's this or that, it's all BS. Look, I know there's a lot of rumor mill stuff that goes on, especially when it comes to realignment. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of S to sort through a lot of the time, but there was enough substance there to know better than to think that this was all entirely made up, especially given Yormark's reputation, especially given his stated public desires, that of Baylor Athletic Director Mack Rhoades at least 20 times on this show, that they are open for business. They're open to listen to anybody. Yormark made it clear, we'd love to be coast to coast. We'd love to have this. We'd love to have that. I mean, they didn't hide it. They didn't pretend like they were saying one thing and then doing another. Like, it's all been very clear. So if he was in any way, shape, or form, if that what I read was true, then that's going to have to be a long, hard meeting with your commissioner, I think, with the Pac-12 presidents. And maybe when they get together tonight and they go over what all's been discussed today, that will be a topic of conversation. But yeah, I mean, they got caught flat-footed. How, you ask? I have no idea, other than just being pretentious and having their noses so far up in the air that this slick New Yorker and these dumb Midwesterners can't possibly pull one over on us. And guess what? Looks like they did. Well, and they went and grabbed a brand that you'd grabbed from them. So take backs, buddy. And you know what? I'm not anti-PAC. I'm not rooting against them, but the arrogance, man, like, if there's one thing that I do not like in this world is arrogance, no matter where it comes from. I just don't like it. I'm put off by it. And there was a lot of arrogance, not necessarily directly from the commissioner, but just in general. PAC fans, no problem with you, no issue with you, but there wasn't arrogance. And so to hear him talk, or to hear that, he was possibly caught off guard, or that anybody was possibly caught off guard, it's just ridiculous. I mean, and it's the opposite of what you would be told to believe as far as their, mental capacity and their how smart and well-read and educated everybody is. You idiots in the Big 12, and it's like, who's the idiot now, man? Because you had your warnings and you thought, I guess, it was all BS.
Okay, Jason Scheer pointed this out. They let USC and UCLA vote against expansion, then leave.
Yeah.
And then after that, they've slow played expansion, and they could have just eaten up the carcass of the Big 12 had they reacted quickly when the Big 12 was on the mat. But they drilled down in the resume so much that it got them in trouble. Because sometimes if you are, okay, look, I get it. When the Big 12 was on the mat, maybe you say, okay, well, we're fine. We got USC and UCLA. We'll figure out where that thing is later. A year later, USC and UCLA leave, and the first thing you do is still go, well, we'll see where we are with these 10 and a media deal and all that. And you've been not aggressive at all in trying to go for anything. And because you kind of get drilled down in the resume. Look, when people are leaving your conference, you don't get to say, like, you must have all these to your job. When people are quitting your company and you need people to work there, just ask Elon Musk. He could, about Twitter. He's probably not got some of the best people that were working there before because there was an exodus. You just got to get people who can do it and then figure out the rest later. With some of these conferences and the teams that Big 12 didn't get drilled down in the resume. They're like, what is best for us right now? Let's find some common denominators. And they did, and they brought him in, and boom, now they're thriving.
Well, Kliavkoff can't be blamed solely either.
Absolutely
this
not.
is on the Pac-12 presidents as well. They kicked the can down the road or allowed it to be kicked as much as anybody. And look, this is just a cautionary tale, and this is something where, it's going to be fine in the long run to some extent. Everybody's going to have some type of landing spot. It's just not going to be the ideal scenario that maybe they thought it was going to be at one point in time. And yes, the spin is already in full effect. I've seen it. Trading up, garbage. Like, come on, man. That is, I don't know if you've seen this.
Yes, it was from, yeah.
But I want to finish on the presidents. So just hold on to that if you don't mind. But, I think it's equally at the foot of the presidents, but it's just a tale of two tactics, and they lost their two LA schools, and they decided to sit pat and say things when the other side was being, and probably their eyes, overly aggressive. We haven't decided if we're going to go shopping there yet. Was a direct quote that was based on the Big 12's actions and how aggressive they were being, and obviously the Pac took a different tact. And now we've learned that the more aggressive approach, while maybe unsavory to some, was the absolute right business move, was the absolute right call, and it prevented the Big 12 from being the exact situation the Pac-12's in right now, where the shoe had definitely been on the other foot, and the Big 12 would still have another year to go. I mean, what's the TV landscape going to look like in another year if it's already what it is? I just saw where... it was Peacock lost like $3 billion this year or whatever. So I don't know that all of a sudden the streaming world's just going to explode overnight again. And then somehow, had this gone the way it was supposed to, the Big 12 is going to have a whole lot of options in a few months down the line. So they clearly, took the right approach in being aggressive. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people in the Pac that can look back on this when it's all said and done and say, we could have, we should have, we would have, whatever. But right now they're scrambling to figure out what they can do to grab buckets and throw water off the boat and then plug the hole that they can that's now there because of what's probably about to happen in Boulder in the next hour. And that doesn't sink them. Doesn't mean the end of the conference, but there is spinning already going on. One reporter already talking about trading up with San Diego State and SMU. And I know that has to be trolling. That has to be trolling because there's no spinning the Colorado surprise. I'm sorry. There's just not. I don't care what you want to say about their brands in San Diego and Dallas and what those can turn into. Look, I've given SMU plenty of credit, San Diego State as well. I think that they've got potential to be great, and they could do really well with more money and more maybe exposure. We don't even know that, right? You just still don't have your TV deal. We don't even know what exposure they would have, but more money, certainly. How much more? We still don't know that either. That's also part of the problem. But, they can correct themselves and they can plug a hole and they can be fine. But, we'll see later on tonight. I mean, I don't know if you read it, but there's a meeting later on tonight, Pac-12 presidents, and everybody's going to be getting together and I guess discussing their expansion options and what all, they need to take care of now at this point post-Colorado. And it'll be fascinating to learn what comes out of that meeting because it's obviously not one that they originally planned on having, but it's one that now they're being forced to have. And, it's really just a product of them kind of taking their time and just playing it California cool and thinking that, I guess, just all of this was propaganda. Well done, Endeavor, because you convinced them nothing was going to happen and you just swooped right in and grabbed Colorado. So, fascinated to know what I would love to just be a fly on the wall, right, of what that meeting is like with the Pac-12 officials. But, it would indicate that San Diego State and SMU have to be on standby right now. And, I saw one I don't know, I think it was a tweet that was talking about just how quickly because we know like with the 4 new schools and then with the LA schools, like it's taken them like a full on year, if not more, to get everything in a row for their departures to their new conferences. So how quickly could San Diego State just go boom, 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 boom? Not for this year, obviously. That's not the deal, but for 2024. So it's going to be a jam-packed, pretty quick process. I think especially when you consider that while you're doing that, the people you're talking with in the room are still dissatisfied and pissed off that Colorado bailed and that they still don't have a TV deal nor know how much money they're making or where their games are going to be or how much is linear and how much is streaming. So you're trying to now move quickly and pivot and expand like you should have done over the last year at multiple different intervals, but you didn't. Okay, lesson learned. Now you basically have to because you're going to be at 9 teams. So you have to move on that, all the while crossing your fingers and making sure that when everybody says we're on board together, they're actually on board and there's not another Colorado looming that's going to torpedo you again, because who knows? I mean, who can say now that there's not, somebody getting a little itchy to jump based on what they do know or what they still don't know. And so there's a little bit of a double dilemma or a double trouble that's, going to be interesting to see how they navigate that and how quickly they can kind of get control or regain control of the situation.
Well, and look, they're all different along the spectrum of the 9 schools remaining, or actually we'll just say the 10 schools with Colorado. Colorado was the most likely to leave the whole time.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing. They were the one who, they knew that they had at home previously, that home would welcome them back. So they always knew that option was there, and they would be fine with that, especially given how poorly football-wise things went for them. And by the way, this is all happening. The Pac-12 is falling apart because the worst team in their league is leaving. Like, they couldn't even get the best teams happy, and the worst team got pissed and left. There was all that. But then you go, okay, so who's the next on the spectrum up the impatient for the TV deal line? We don't know who that is. And then we know a couple like Stanford and Cal are only going to leave in the, DEFCON 1 situation.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I don't think the Big 12 would extend an invite anyways. I don't think anybody has any interest. That'd be a Big 10 move or something.
But leaving the conference altogether, like that, they would only leave and say, we're leaving the conference when it's over, right? Or the Big 10 is the conference that comes for them. So yeah, there's so many different things that are going to happen over the next few days. By the way, if anybody was wondering what that Oregon meeting was about that they called last night, that was about Dan Lanning's contract.
Yeah. There were some people that had pointed that out, like, hey, this is not what you think it is. This is about Dan Lanning. But I knew that there was no way to probably corral that after the Colorado news, as I saw last night, just multiple different, like, hey, keep your eyes on and all that. And yeah, I had seen from I don't know if it was John Wilner or somebody else that had said, no, this is about Dan Lanning's contract. So, yeah, that's all that turned out to be. It would be surprising if the Ducks had moved that quickly because they seem to be in a different position than Colorado where they kind of can scan the landscape and take their time, if anything. So, yeah, that was not a big letdown or a real shock because I had seen that a bit beforehand. I do want to go back real quickly to that quote that I was referring to about being surprised about Colorado, and I don't want to lay it at the feet of somebody who didn't necessarily say it. So it wasn't Kleofkoff that said it, but the point remains still overall. So John Canzano had said that one AD in the Pac-12, or one AD said of Colorado, last week they were at the table saying they were in and waiting to see the deal. And then Wolkin responded by, like, if anybody's saying they're surprised by this after all the last few months of everything that's going on, and that's what I was referring to, is like, yeah, if you're an AD talking about Colorado moving, or you're Kleofkoff, or if you're anybody, quite frankly, involved in this, you're like, I can't believe it. How could you not? I mean, I guess it's hard for you to make the leap of like, oh, wow, they actually did it. But to be surprised in any way, shape, or form that somebody actually made the move, then, you shouldn't be shocked. And that's just, I guess, a job well done on the part of whatever information you were being fed that, allowed you to think that was never a possibility. But it was certainly always something out in the atmosphere. And to the point where people were like, just enough already, but there was smoke. And then there was eventually, it looks like some fire, as we'll find out here in about an hour officially. But so tonight the Pac-12 will get together and discuss their options. And I know in addition to, obviously looking at San Diego State and SMU and how they could get all that together and how quickly and what that would mean. And of course, there's still that whole TV deal thing that they have to get solved. There's also, still the burning embers of discussion about, now could they put together an alliance? And could them and the ACC get together? And are there going to be discussions? And what could that look like? And so I think it's all hands on deck, all options on the table if you're the Pac-12, whether it's expansion, it's scheduling, it's, making whatever change you need to make sure that you stay upright. And I don't like this for the fans. I'm sure there are plenty of listeners out there who had their interactions with Pac-12 fan like Ute Guy or, Buff Stampede or, something like that wasn't very fun because that's just social media. But in general, obviously the majority of people are just great college football fans, no matter where you're looking in the country. And for those who are just kind of minding their business and going about their business, and they suddenly get gobsmacked by this, and maybe the conference they grew up loving or whatever is suddenly in a little bit of a emergency situation. I don't enjoy that for anybody. Other than a couple of you kind of deserve that, but in general, I don't want that for just regular old, person like us who's just a college football fan, because it sucks, because we've seen it with the Big 12, and really just the most shocking thing is the fact that the Big 12 was able to make the strides that it made in a little less than 2 years to be in this position. Because if you had said on the day that Oklahoma and Texas were announced to the SEC and Brett Zorneman's report came out and then it was made official a few days later, that not only would they survive, but in 2 years they'd be bringing Colorado back and they'd be bringing in 4 schools prior to that, and they would be adding somebody else at some point in time. I don't think many people would have believed in Brett Yormark or the ADs or presidents to get that done, and they've gotten at least part of that done. I mean, they brought in 4 new schools. Looks like they're about to add a 5th and bring one home, and no doubt there will be a 6th at some point, because you're not going to have a 13-team conference. So, who that turns out to be, or is it 14? Is it, do they keep climbing? I mean, is it, 15, 16, what does that turn into? That's now, I think, the story for the Big 12. And so, a lot to unpack, a lot to still absorb, and a lot to learn later on tonight out of whatever comes from that Pac-12 meeting, and whatever, we learn publicly from what's said behind closed doors, which will be something. We won't be completely in the dark, of course, but fascinated to know what that is. And now for the Big 12, make this Colorado thing official. Sign them up for the 31.7 like everybody else, and they're just back in the swing of things starting in 24. And now start to, see, okay, what's this about UConn? What's this about any other Pac-12 school? But I do think that this is not one where you're just rushing to, by the end of the week, we need number, what are we at now? 13? And I don't mean we, but I just mean in general. 13 teams in the Big 12. So, I don't think 14's announced by the end of the week. I don't know about you. But, hey, there's been plenty of surprises, so who the heck really knows? Yep.
Max Olson of The Athletic comes up next. After Max, we've got some super chats that we are going to read. This is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How crazy is this? 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport totals values of $4,000 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. How crazy is that? Or the 2023 Jeep Compass, get 10% below MSRP. That's right, these deals are hot, just like our summer days in Texas. Remember, first responders get another $500 in savings. So come find the Jeep that's right for you and save big at Alan Samuels in Waco. Make this the summer sales event at Alan Samuels during the hot days of summer. And this month in July, get legendary 2023 Dodge Chargers or Challengers, SXT, GT, or RT models. Your choice with total values up to $2,000. Alan Samuels in Waco is the place for you to shop for your next Dodge. Shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and find the hot rod for you. Come by and visit the showroom at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. See the Demons and Scat Packs they have loaded the sales floor with. They won't last long, as you truly have the last call models of legendary muscle cars only at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Max Olson of The Athletic joins us now. Rhett Lashley, SMU head coach at 4 o'clock. And Max, what you been working on? Anything exciting in the world of college football that The Athletic is uncovering?
Any meetings coming up here we got to tune in for?
Yeah, about 1 in 30 minutes. Holy cow.
Guys, I mean, honestly, we've been talking about it for 12 months. Yeah. I mean, you've been interviewing people about this for 12 months. I've been interviewing people about this for 12 months. So, frankly, there's like a little bit of just sigh of relief to actually have a tangible development at this point, you know?
Oh, yeah. I said in this last break, I've said it like 15 times in the last 24 hours. Like, I'm just so glad to have something like meaty and real to talk about that's not just like, hey, what could, should, would, and like, hey, no, hey, this is actually happening. It's just, it is a relief in some ways, and now it just makes for, you know, an abundance of other storylines now to try to track down. But Max, just what was your first reaction, and how'd you kind of hear, hey, this is actually happening? Colorado looks like they're making a move.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I started hearing from some people back on, I think, probably Sunday night that this was heading in this direction. But to be honest, I've heard it before, right? I mean, it's just there's been a few times where it seemed like the Big 12 was pretty bullish, pretty optimistic on its chances of getting Colorado. Certainly, you know, we've reported pretty consistently for a few months here that, you know, nobody's been more receptive to this than Colorado. Started hearing it Sunday that they were waiting until after Pac-12 Media Day to move forward with this stuff. And, you know, obviously couldn't get enough confirmation on that, up until yesterday. But, you know, I really did get the sense after the Big 12 meetings, in the end of May when they were in West Virginia and kind of what their plan. From everyone I talked to coming out of that, there was real optimism about Colorado. And, you know, I think that, there's still a tiny bit of surprise that this is happening, I guess, on my end. But, you know, especially because these schools have been so consistent in saying they're waiting to see, you know, what this Pac-12 TV deal is. And look, there's a lot of ways to break down the winners and losers of this stuff. But, clearly Colorado making this decision with this timing speaks to the real concern about where these Pac-12 negotiations are right now.
So, Max, do you think that the Pac-12 will be able to hold all the other 9 schools together?
That's the $1 million question. I think that from everyone I've talked to around the Big 12, really over the past year, I think the theory has always been that if you could get one of them to come over and commit to the Big 12, gives you a chance to get 2 or maybe 4. And I don't know that at this point, I don't think Brett Yormark believes he's getting the 4 corner schools, all 4 of them. I think that would be a surprising development. But, I think the attention really shifts now to Arizona and really to some degree to the rest of the Pac-12, because I think it's pretty clear Brett Yormark wants the Big 12 to be at 14. I think 14 is probably more likely than 16 at this point, unless the Pac-12 totally collapses. So I think the Big 12 wants to take one more, and I think certainly the board would prefer that that's a Pac-12 member. I don't think that's going to happen fast necessarily. Might not happen at all, but I think that's where the focus goes here.
You did have an article come out just a couple of hours ago addressing the UConn side of things. They've been, there's one school that they've completely fallen off the map, and that's Gonzaga. Like, I don't know what happened there, Max, but it's like they just disappeared from discussions. But UConn's been out there, and that was kind of around the time Gonzaga, like, hey, basketball, coast to coast, all that. And then there was, that UConn would probably be, a full-on member. And I think it's fair to say there's a bit of a mixed reaction in Big 12 country, maybe to the point of like, yeah, you probably wouldn't get the majority vote, but it seems that this is part of Brett Yormark's vision. And what can you tell us about just UConn, the potential pursuit there, and, how does that fit into this grand old puzzle?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think it'd be very interesting to see, like, what is the reaction if the Big 12, were to go in that direction. If Colorado is the only Pac-12 school that's coming over, then I could certainly see Brett Yormark going all in on trying to add UConn. And when I say trying to add, I mean trying to convince, Big 12 presidents, chancellors, and ADs that is the move they need to make. I think from everyone I've talked to, the sense I get is that Brett Yormark's really high on UConn and their potential, and really believes that if you bring them into the Big 12 and invest in them, it's not just the immediate impact of men's and women's basketball, but certainly I think he believes that UConn and the Big 12 can become, a value add for the conference. And part of that is just he comes from a different background, right? I mean, when he took this job, it's more of an East Coast background. I think it's important to him to plant a flag in New York. Obviously, you saw that a week ago with the event at Rucker Park. Like, I think he sees real, like, kind of buy low potential in some ways with UConn. It's just a challenge in every conversation I've had with ADs. Like, you get the sense they're just sort of like, don't really know if I see that. And so I think that will be an interesting, if it gets to that, if truly UConn is what Brett Yormark views as his best option moving forward to get this thing to 14. I'll be very curious to see, can he sell that, and get the votes he needs, to get them into the conference, or do you go in a different direction?
I would think, Max, if he did that today, he wouldn't have the votes. But the good news for him and UConn is that it's not like there's a bidding war out there for him.
Yeah. And look, I think one of the challenges there is, if you're adding Pac-12 schools, Big 12 pro rata can get $31 million for those Pac-12 schools. They can't get it for UConn. I really don't think that's the case. Don't think that they'd be able to become a full share member from a revenue standpoint until you do the next TV deal in 2031. So, obviously, like, there's a little bit of there's some difficulties there, and then they have an exit fee as well from their conference. But look, I think from the UConn side too, even if they can only get, $20 million in TV money as a member of the Big 12 in the near future, like, that's a lot more than $3.8 million that they're getting from Fox right now. So, like, I certainly can understand the skepticism even on the UConn side of, like, does that really make sense for us? But ultimately money drives a lot of these decisions.
So, Max, apparently there's going to be some meetings tonight, Pac-12 folks getting together. Any number of things are going to have to obviously be on the table, whether it's, expansion or there's still no TV deal. I imagine now you're looking around that room, same room you were around a week ago, and now one of those, people's apparently on their way out after everybody kind of saying everything was okay. So I'm sure there will be a lot of side eyes and just weird things to kind of work through. What do you now anticipate from the PAC and how they react in light of this news?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. If this had broken a couple months ago, then you would think that they would probably move forward with San Diego State, in a heartbeat, and that would be the way they backfill. And then just the way that this all timed up between the TV deal and all this, like San Diego State ends up in a really tough spot, has to mend fences with, the Mountain West, and is going to have to pay a ton of money, like $34 million or so. If they try to exit the Mountain West now. So there's obviously that complicating factor that has played out pretty publicly here over the past month. I don't know. I mean, I think the idea of going in that direction of, San Diego State, SMU, Colorado State, whatever. I think a week ago, the folks in the Pac-12, there was still some resistance to do any of them make sense for us because, I think especially at the top of that league, if you're Oregon and Washington, you like a pretty clear path to a 12-team playoff and to a top 6 seed and all that stuff. So I think that, or a top 4 seed. So, I think it would be an interesting conversation about how do you replace Colorado? How many do you bring in if you replace Colorado? And can you get everybody within the conference on board with that? And look, I think they all felt like Colorado was locked arms with them on this, waiting until the end of the media rights negotiations. And so naturally there's going to be, more distrust in these meetings than there was yesterday.
So, Max, how do they get caught flat-footed repeatedly? USC, UCLA, out the door. TV deal, nothing. The alliance, for God's sakes, flat-footed. I mean, how does this keep keep happening to them over and over and over again?
Yeah, I mean, when the dust settles on this stuff, obviously, there's going to be a blame game there to play on the Pac-12 side of things. And how much do you attribute to George Kliavkoff and his predecessor? How much do you attribute to, certainly in some of these cases, you have to point to decision making or indecision by the Pac-12, board, the CEOs in that league who have turned down some of these opportunities in the past to expand and things like that. So I don't know. I think the crazy thing is we still have a long ways to go. And I think the fact that we're sitting here heading into August and it's not even just that we don't really know when the Pac-12 deal gets done. I'm sure they'd like to have it done a month from now. We have no clue who the partners are, and we have no clue how close this is going to come to 31 million. We have no clue what the split is on linear versus streaming. It's just wild that there's this much uncertainty. And as you guys know from covering the Big 12 this long, when you have this, sustained uncertainty, it's going to lead to people that have options exploring their options.
Max, Deion Sanders, how much of an impact did a football head coach seem to have in realignment, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a great question. And truthfully, starting with this board meeting coming up, I'm looking forward to hearing the Colorado side of this story because we haven't really heard that at all up to this point. I mean, they've tried to, their chancellor and their AD, Rick George, have tried to give pretty measured statements about we're waiting to see what happens and we got to do what's best for Colorado and stuff. I'm really interested to hear sort of how they portray their perspective on why they're making this move now and why they prefer the Big 12. I think that it's not a secret that Deion Sanders preferred being in the Big 12, felt like he could recruit not just Texas better, but even, the Big 12 is in Florida now. It's more of a national conference now. I think certainly, Colorado wants to recruit at the highest level and feels like this will help. But how much is he in the room on these things? How much is he really driving the bus on changing leagues? Ultimately, I think it still comes down to a board. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much he wants to take credit for this. I think that, look, the Big 12 was looking at Colorado last summer, long before Deion Sanders showed up. But still, I do know that that's an element of this. Brett Yormark likes big brands, and I think he does view Deion Sanders as a big, exciting brand.
My theory on Deion and his involvement in this, and that most head coaches wouldn't get much of a say other than please give us your input and expertise. But because they've swung so big with Deion, and he is the biggest celebrity you can possibly hire to be the head of your football program, if he asks you for something or says this is what I would prefer, it probably carries a little bit more weight than most.
I think Deion Sanders, of all the first-year head coaches this year, and really probably over the last few years here in college football, I don't think anyone has accumulated more power in a short period of time at a school than Deion Sanders has in showing up at Colorado. Honestly, they are doing everything the Coach Prime way from top to bottom there at Colorado. And so I'm not saying that's why they're changing conferences by any means, but certainly, his arrival and the relevance that is instantly created for Colorado from a national standpoint, that hire has paid dividends already, no matter what the record is this fall. And he's got more say than these other guys do. I mean, you remember a year ago, you had to question, wait, did Lincoln Riley know that USC was going into the Big Ten? Right? Usually the head coach is really not a party to this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Max, about 15 minutes from now, we'll hear the results of the vote, and we all wait with bated breath to hear if somehow the Pac-12 pulled out this dark horse win. So,
guys, turned out this wasn't fake news, huh?
Yeah. Imagine that. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Max Olson of The Athletic.
Hey, man, good
Max,
job.
thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right, yeah. So, was not fake news. No.
Hey, man, everybody's got to get their receipts, buddy. They do. So, Max has been all over this for the last year. Like he said, we've been talking about it. I think, like he said, everybody in this room will agree with you. I've said it 15 times in the last, day or so. I think it's just relief, right? It's just relief because it's real. It's tangible. It's actual movement. It's not, I heard or this could or whatever. And then 6 months go by and it's like, oh no, wait, now it's, and then kick the can down and 2 months later, no, this time watch this. And, and all that, not to say should just be dismissed entirely, by no means, but, when you do that for an entire year or even longer when you are somebody covering the Big 12, because this doesn't date back to USC and UCLA. This dates back to the Big 12 losing Oklahoma and Texas, and then their expansion and the hire of Brett Yormark and his grand vision. And then, you have the PAC situation on top of that then changes a lot of things to make this type of move actually possible. That's been... that being realignment, just a major topic in general, but particularly for, the Big 12 and, also for the Pac-12 for, at least a year, if not longer. So for those who have been all over it like we have and Max has, Jason Shearer we talked to yesterday, who checked that out. That was a really good interview with him, talking, his perspective, the Arizona side and all that. It's a relief because, there was a lot of ugly things said at times and a lot of, nothing's happening and name calling and all kinds of jazz. And that's even from within, the own walls of the Big 12. Folks, I guess, just feeling they got to feel better than other people. I don't know. But to have it's real and there's movement and we can talk about it and it's not fake news and, it wasn't Yormark bluffing and, just all that kind of, it wasn't Mac Rhodes coming on every week and saying we're open for business, we're open for business, we're open for business. Now he can say we conducted some business and then we can talk about that and then move from there on what the next course of action will be. So it is relieving in that way, but obviously there's still a lot more to come. And for a lot of folks involved, particularly on the West Coast, that sense of relief is not in the cards right now, and you wonder how quickly it will be until they can get that of their own and know hey, Oregon State's going to be fine and they're going to be in the PAC and there's going to be 12 teams and they're going to have this TV deal on this network and that uncertainty sucks, and so it's shifted much more now into the Pac-12's corner. But, what a turn of events and what a few months it's been, and I always enjoy talking to our buddy Max.
All right, we'll take a break right here, Garrett, and then I'm going to read these super chats. If we spill over into time to call Coach Lashley, just call him.
Got him.
And we'll get him on. Okay, so with Rhett Lashley coming up next, and very interesting. We were going to have him regardless. I mean, it's always great to talk to Rhett Lashley, but now SMU has some interesting things to consider.
Yeah.
That that may or may not have been on the table 24 hours ago, realistically, or at least as soon as maybe they thought. But we'll read some Super Chats next. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com, and joined by Marketing Director Samantha Duvall. Samantha, thanks for your time. There have been numerous holidays, and now it's just straight up the summertime. Your thoughts about some of the specials and ideas you have?
So we still have our hamburger special going on. We're going to continue it through the end of July. When you bundle our 25-pound ground beef bundle, you can get hamburger for as low as $6 a pound. And the same with our 28-pound Wagyu hamburger patties. You can also get those for as low as $6 a pound. All of those come with free shipping in Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We've got a lot of steaks online. People are buying up our brisket. Time to smoke a brisket. Good time to grill out. If you order and use our code SICK'EM10, you can get 10% off your order of $100 or more. And it's all grown right here in White House. We're a family-owned company. It's all pasture raised. We just enjoy what we get to do.
Family reunion, people going out to the lakes, or people just meeting or going out of town. Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate at TexasBeefHouse.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneeredboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is a premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements, with the members excited about what they see. New flooring, locker rooms have been redone, new painting, and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, with a new squat machine that will test your legs and their stamina. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, treadmills, elliptical machines on a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and welcome Nathan Roach. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro, the great Britt Cole, plus adult tennis lessons with Blake and Kenna, who are ready to take your game to another level. And the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website, wacotennis.com. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive next to Hawaiian Falls in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sick'em 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sick'Em365.com.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Let's dive into some Super Chats. Craig from Matt Rogers, $5. I'm going to hold off on that one. He kind of takes a shot, but thank you is a funny thing. I'll show it to you, Craig.
Okay.
I'll show it to you. I just don't want to take shots if we don't have to.
Okay.
It's funny, though. Mr. TW sent us 2, one for $9.99, one for $1.99. First, Pac-12 equals blockbuster video, and I for their sake, I hope they're not that yet.
You know, I am of the age where I have a sentimental spot for Blockbuster Video.
And look, I would miss the Pac-12 too if it went away. So, yeah, I miss Blockbuster.
Well, I don't know about all that, but no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, there is definitely that comparison that you could draw, at least for right now, until we see how they shore up their business on the back end later tonight and moving forward. But if you want to feel that way, I mean, you have every right to, because there is a chance until there's some concrete information and some concrete barricades put around that conference that, yeah, they're flailing at the moment, and whether they actually fail or not, remains to be seen. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from there.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to mention Blockbuster Video really quickly. It's one of the few places on earth that existed. Like, if you could go into a Burger King anywhere else, like, it kind of smells the same. It depends. Like, the staff could be, it just depends on, if you walked into a Blockbuster Video in Sacramento, California, in Dallas, Texas, in Shreveport, Louisiana, or in like Bangor, Maine, it smelled the same. The staff was having the same argument about a movie. There was no difference in any Blockbuster Video, no matter where you walked into. It was almost like a pocket dimension.
Yeah, it was its own little world that you could, especially if you're, a young kid like I was, that used to roam those aisleways. Your imagination would run wild, seeing all the various covers and all the candy and everything. But yeah, I always found Hastings was the one that was just wildly different depending on what location you were at, like which one had which kind of thing. Hastings was always a bit more of a wild card, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Mr. TW says this, RIP Pac-12, could we please just get the old Southwest Conference back? If you could add any two teams to the old SWC, who would it be? Great show, guys. Well, then you wouldn't have the old Southwest Conference back, Mr. TB. His logo is an Arkansas fan. I understand Arkansas fans, especially older ones, missing the Southwest Conference because they won that league regularly. Like, they were one of the dominant teams in it. And since they moved to the SEC, it's just not. They've been good.
They've had moments, but not enough to be
but not like
satisfied.
they were in the Southwest Conference, where they had the game of the century was what they took a part of. So yeah, it's different. I'm not as romantic about the Southwest Conference because I liked the Big 12 a little bit better when that happened. I also, just as someone who looks at the history of college football, I think the Southwest Conference in the 80s especially was a really failed experiment in that they forgot that there were teams playing football in other places. Like, just forgot. Because, you looked at, like, that was where Miami and Nebraska and Florida State and, like, all these schools are, like, shooting up to the top and dominating. And you have all this talent in Texas and the place where football is a religion, and you don't win anything because you only care about beating the team that was in the borders of that in Arkansas. Like, that was it. Like, it got too myopic. So that's why it ended, because everywhere else was growing, and the Southwest Conference was like, well, as long as we beat Texas, that's a great year. And you've got other schools like, yeah, we'd like to beat everybody we play, and we will be playing on New Year's Day in the one television game that everyone's going to watch.
Well, T-Dub, thank you for the super chat, and I think there is a lot of reminiscing and wondering about, hey, are we moving towards a place, at least that I've seen a lot of discussion about, is this another step in the return of everything to the way that it was like 30 years ago? Where instead of like everybody trying to be worldwide, coast to coast, like we're slowly shrinking back to actual regional conferences that makes sense. And I know there's definitely a fondness for, the nostalgia. I think the Southwestern Conference does benefit from nostalgia more so than, I think it's remembered differently, Paul, would it be fair to say, than maybe it actually was at the time? Yeah. I think, this Colorado move is as much of a Big 8 thing and original Big 12 thing as anything, but I definitely get the feeling that you got there with all this. And, if you could put it all together and somehow get back to where, Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas or, some combination of that, all that would be great. Obviously, OU Texas is completely off the table. And I think there will always till the end of time probably be like, well, would Arkansas ever get tired of just making money in the SEC? Would they ever want to come back home? So, yeah, I've noticed just a lot of that love for wanting to get back to the roots of conferences and regional rivalries and drivable distances and things of that nature. I don't know if these current events are leading towards that, but I do think that there, is something to just the world we're living in and how quickly we see obviously can change. Like, who's to say that's not the direction that it inevitably goes, in 10, 15, 20 years. But for right now, the foreseeable future, I think everybody's trying to grab their life raft while they can, and then once they're in the boats, kind of figure out where we go from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to a couple more before Coach Lashley. Matt Ritson votes faulty Pac-12 conference all above. I think he was commenting on the poll. John Smith, and this was 30 minutes ago because now it's 1 minute. 30 minutes till the official Colorado vote, and now it's about a minute away. And Jeff Speakman says, new segment for the show, Craig cuts a promo.
Oh, yeah, well, hey, maybe that's something I could look into. I'd have to be, fired up about it. I don't know that every day it would constitute a promo, but yeah, on occasion, I think I could possibly handle that. But I do believe it's a little bit better when it's more natural and just kind of flows out of me as opposed to, like working on it. But thank you. I think I, can cut a good promo here from every once in a while. So appreciate you.
Absolutely. So, Garrett, go ahead and call Rhett Lashley. It is.
Thanks to everybody for the super chats.
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And please keep them coming. I've got time built out in the show to be able to read those today. Mm-hmm. I could have gone heavy guest. We were supposed to have Stuart Mandel today. He's now going to be tomorrow. And that's because of what's going on right now with the Colorado board meeting. So we will have him and Brett McMurphy back-to-back in the 4 o'clock hour tomorrow.
That'll be fun. They've kind of been coming from two different places this entire time as well. When you think about it, you've had Brett accused of being Big 12 propaganda arm, and then you've got Stewart on the other side, who you say that probably about the Pac-12 to some extent. So yeah, that'll be two diverse, different opinions, but guys versed and sourced and knowledgeable. So yeah, can't wait to hear what they have to say tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely. SMU head coach Rhett Lashley joins us now, friend of the show, been on a bunch of times. And Coach, we'll talk about the upcoming season and you guys and Preston Stone and all the great things you've got going on. But I would be remiss not to ask, in all of this conference realignment shifting, SMU's name has come up a lot when it comes to the Pac-12. With Colorado leaving, what does that put you and the program on? As people like me are going to ask you about it. Where do you feel like you guys fit into conference realignment as you try to take that next step with your program?
Well, luckily for me, you can ask that question, and I can honestly tell you I got no idea. I'm just worried about fall camp starting on Tuesday. But that's honestly, that's the truth. What I do know is, to your question or your point in your question about SMU has been the topic for the last year about a lot of conference realignment in multiple conferences. And, we're in a great conference right now in the American that, it's proven. Just look at Tulane last year. You win it, you're in the Cotton Bowl, and they go beat USC. And after a year from now, this thing's going to expand to 12 teams. And if you win our league, you're in just about every year. And so I just think we're in a really good place. I think it shows the fact that, we have a rich history at SMU. I know in the last, 4 or 5 years, we played really good football, which is kind of resurrected us a little bit because there was a good stretch there where we weren't very good. And so I think it just shows you the national brand SMU has across the country. And I think it just shows you the fact that, we're the only school in Dallas. We're in the city of Dallas in the great state of Texas. And so if we're attractive to a bunch of people, that's good for us. But we need to go out and win. And that's really, that's my job. So that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, Coach, there's one thing on that and not really delving further into that, but would it be fair to say, just based on the SMU fans that I see, seeing the facility updates, seeing the success that they now had under multiple head coaches and you getting off to a good first year, would it just be fair to say in general that if somebody were to say, hey, SMU, what are you up to, that the Mustangs are ready to kick the tires and be ready to do whatever?
I think so. I think we have a strong commitment from our school president, to our board, to our athletics director, to all of our alumni. We want to compete at the highest level, and whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And we feel like that's our past, and we feel like that's where we can be and should be. And, it's been a long road back to this point where we can say that we feel like there's a lot of momentum around our program, and we have the opportunity to put ourselves in position to do those things. And so, look, I'm fortunate to be here at a time where, like you said, the coaches in the last 3 or 4 coaches before me have done a lot to put our program where it is now. And so me and my staff, we're fortunate to be in this position. But look, there probably hasn't been this much excitement and momentum since Eric Dickerson and the Pony Express was here, and that's exciting for us.
Coach, you said fall camp starts on Tuesday. I mean, this is where you get the butterflies and excitement about getting it going. And your team, you've loaded up on transfers, I know, but you've got some guys returning that, while they might not have been starters, like your quarterback Preston Stone, has seen some real time for you in key situations. How much easier is that to transition into a year when, for example, at quarterback with Preston, he started games and won games for you, as opposed to having to play in situations where a game is out of hand one way or the other and you're not playing the full boat of the playbook?
That's a great question, and I agree with you. And I mean, I think there's a big difference between spot starting and being the starter. Mm-hmm. And that's just the truth. I mean, until you've been that guy through the spring and the summer and the off season and fall camp and leading up to the first game, and then, the ups and downs of a season, it's still there's an experience level or a learning curve that's just got to happen. Okay. And that hasn't happened for Preston yet, but he has. He's played. He started a game we've won. He has done enough which is a whole lot better than him never taking a snap or a meaningful snap, to your point. And so, look, I think our team has a lot of confidence in Preston. I think Preston has confidence in Preston. I know I do. And, our opening 4-game stretch is pretty tough. So that learning curve is going to be steep, but I feel like he's just going to get better and better and better, and just really excited to watch him play.
What was the learning curve for you after the first year as a head coach? Obviously, been a lot of big schools, big situations, big games, in a big-time position. But to have the reins of the SMU program and to be the head coach, what kind of came out of that first year for you that you sort of, recognized or learned from, and that learning curve, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone, you always want to get better from game 1 to game 2. I'm really hoping to get better from year 1 to year 2, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's just to let coach lead the team, manage the game, the staff. I mean, we did a lot of, as a coach, you often look back and go, well, we didn't do this, this, and this. And so, yeah, there was some really close losses in year 1, even our bowl game, going for 2 on the last play against BYU. Like, there's some moments that you wish either you had back or would have maybe executed, or it would have come your way instead of the other way. But by and large, what I'm really excited about, besides the fact that I just survived year 1, right? And most of the staff decided to stick around with me, is like, I felt like 2 things that were really important we accomplished is, 1, we have a really good team culture. And that word gets thrown around a lot, but we really do. And if you don't, that's not good. And so, I mean, our guys like being around each other. They believe and trust our coach. It doesn't mean we're perfect and don't have problems, but like, for a big, college football program, we have a good culture. Our guys like being here. They like playing together. I think that was proven in our season last year, and by the fact that everybody wanted to stick around here in this kind of new era of college football. And the second thing that I was really, excited about is we learned how to finish. We went 5-2 down the stretch, 3-1 in our league. I think it was the first time since 2009 we'd won 3 games in November. Like, it's just, as a program, that had been kind of a bugaboo for the last 4 or 5 years here, and we kind of broke through and we learned how to finish. Now we got to put ourselves in position earlier in the conference slate to where when we finish, we're finishing, hopefully in contention for the championship. But there were some good things. A lot of things could have done better, and hopefully round 2 we'll get those things right.
I asked this to Dave Aranda after his first year, or actually maybe it was after his second year, but did you learn more or as much of what you're never going to do again as a head coach in your first year than you do of maybe what kind of head coach you're going to be, just because like, I tried this, it didn't work, I'm not going back to that?
A little bit. You touch a lot of hot stoves and you learn not to touch them again. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you either learn or confirm a lot about yourself. Mm-hmm. And, in your first year, you're doing a lot of things you think you're supposed to do, right? And so sometimes you may follow your instinct, or sometimes you may do something because you just think that's what you're supposed to do. And you learn what works and what doesn't. But most importantly, you learn just what works for you, because being a head coach is a lot like being a parent. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and you got to do it your way, and you got to do it what's natural. You got to be who you are. And fortunately, SMU allows me to be who I am. Our staff is awesome and allows me to be who I am. And so that's what you do. You learn kind of more than anything, just like to trust yourself. But yeah, you do. You learn like anything else when it's the first time you do something. You learn what to do by maybe what not to do.
Coach, we got to talk to Gus Malzahn at Big 12 Media Days a couple of weeks ago, and obviously you guys go way back. I was just curious because we have UCF fans that tune in. What kind of, could you say about just Gus Malzahn and what you think about the fact that UCF's now making this jump up? They're a team that a lot of people think can make a pretty quick transition because of him and because of just the tools at their disposal. But what are your thoughts on Gus Malzahn, UCF, and then now entering the Big 12?
Well, I think, with the exception of his golf game, basically UCF fans should be really happy. I mean, I don't remember the last time he was able to beat me on the golf course, so hopefully he's listening. But, no, look, I clearly have a ton of respect for Gus. I mean, he was my coach when I was in high school. He helped me a ton get my opportunities in this profession. I'm still a little upset. We were ahead of them at halftime last year, and then they came out and put a pop knot on their head in the second half. So I think Gus is going to do fantastic at UCF. I think UCF, there's a lot of parallels to SMU, and is that they're in a really talent-rich state. Their location is great in a good city, and they have all the ingredients you need to compete at the highest level in college football. And then you give them a guy like Gus Malzahn with the experience, both recruiting and coaching over the years. I mean, what he did at Auburn, I think as every year goes by, people are going to continue to see more and more how incredible it was, from when we went and played for the national championship in year one to the consistency to beating Alabama more than anyone else did really in that span. And just the consistency to recruit and win at a high level at a place like that. I think if I'm a UCF fan, I'm pretty excited.
What is it like coaching against your mentor?
It's not any fun. I mean, I got to coach against Sonny and Gus back-to-back weeks last year. And, you don't like coaching against friends or mentors or whatever you want to call them in this business. And now you do it long enough, you just about every week there's a friend on the other side, but it wasn't fun, but don't get me wrong. I wanted to beat him and he wanted to beat me. So he got round one.
So you mentioned the schedule earlier. You guys open up at home against Louisiana Tech on September the 2nd. Then you got a road trip to Oklahoma, Prairie View A&M road trip, which is not a lengthy road trip, but still batter to the iron skillet with TCU there in that first month. So road trips to Norman and Fort Worth ought to be pretty big games. Just what are your thoughts on not only the start that you guys get off to and how important that will be, but also it's obviously a bit of a new look conference as well with some familiar friends and some foes. Just what are your thoughts on what's ahead of you guys as far as the schedule goes?
Yeah, last year I think we had the hardest schedule we'd had in over a decade here, with at Maryland and TCU, and our league is, we had a really tough road in the league, and we turn around this year and I think our non-conference schedule is tougher. The league's different, and, at Norman and at TCU is a great challenge, and we're excited about it, but we got Sonny Cumbie and La Tech week one, and that's a hard opener, and so hopefully we can play well the first week and get off to a good start, and then, go on the road and see where we are and see, for a young quarterback going on the road and all the things that go with that. We'll know where we stand kind of going into our conference slate. And, I think that our league is still going to be really good. I mean, yes, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati were good programs in this league, and they deserve the credit they've gotten, but the champ Tulane's still here. We finished fourth last year in the league. Memphis has been good for a long time. East Carolina, Navy, those are good programs. But then you look who's coming in. I mean, UTSA and what they've done the last 2 years and what Jeff's done there. And then you got FAU and UAB, who for the last decade really had dominated Conference USA for the last 2 years. I think what Rice and North Texas can do from their locations now that they're in the American will help them. So, I mean, it's still top to bottom a really, really tough league. And so we got to work contention to try to win it. But it'll be interesting to see how that early part of the schedule, we jump right into it.
Coach, just looking up and down your roster and the transfers you brought in, you've got a lot of every kind, but a lot of veteran transfers, guys who are seniors, juniors, grad transfers. Does that make it for an easier transition as you're trying to build chemistry because you've got guys who know what they want to accomplish in college football and know why they are where they are now at SMU?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I think people all the time think you go get a transfer just to get a better player or something. school, transfer in between. You're always trying to improve your roster and get the best players you can. But, I don't know. It's year 2. I don't know if every year we'll take that many transfers. Mm-hmm. Most of our kids come from the state of Texas, even if they are a transfer. They played high school in Texas somewhere. But for us, yes, it's specifically on the defensive side of the ball. We got done with the season last year, and I had our guys look it up, and we haven't had a top 40 defense in SMU in 4 decades.
Wow.
Eric Dickerson was playing here, and everybody talked about the Pony Express. SMU had some real defenses in the 80s. Okay? A lot of NFL players and top 10 defenses. We haven't had one finish better than 40 since then. I think 2010 or 11, they finished like 40th. And 155, and everything else has been higher. And so it's like, yeah, we've been good on offense for a while at SMU, and that's great. But, we want to compete and have an opportunity to win championships. We got to be good on both sides. And so we went out and, we got 4 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers and 6 DBs with 100 career starts in college football, just in the secondary alone. But what comes with that? Yeah, Jonathan McGill from Stanford, who played at Coppell, he's a heck of a player. He was a starter at Stanford and a team captain, though. And so the kind of leadership and maturity that brings in, and that's one example, but those guys, it does make us a little bit more of an experienced team than if you're trying to play a lot of freshmen and sophomores. And so I like the feel of our guys for that reason. And that's really the biggest reason, especially, on both sides of the ball, but on that side, we needed that maturity, that leadership on top of the ability.
Yeah, well, of course, the only problem with guys from Stanford, coaches, they're always going to correct your grammar.
I know. Well, hey, you know what? If he plays good defense, he can correct me all the time.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we always appreciate you hopping on the show when you get a chance. We love talking ball with you. Good luck as practice begins here in the next couple days. Enjoy whatever downtime you have left, which is not much.
Guys, thanks. I always love being on with you. Yeah, I got a few hours with 4 kiddos, so there's no downtime.
No, it's just one craziness to the other,
Yep.
through. Well, Coach, thanks a lot. Have a great start to practice. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Rhett Lashley, head coach at SMU. I'm kind of bullish on their future, regardless of what conference they're in. I think that we're in an interesting era of, with the 12-team playoff, like you said, they're in Dallas. They have resources. I think it's going to be fun to watch them in the future.
Definitely. We need to pivot because there is some updates from Boulder, Colorado. But, great conversation there with Rhett Lashley. Really enjoyed talking to him, and I'm with you. I think SMU, whether they're in the American, whether they're in the Pac-12, and whatever that looks like here pretty soon, obviously he can't, divulge much or is even, fully aware of probably what all's going on behind the scenes, because I don't think that the conference that they might be invited to even knows what's going on right now. So, all that remains a mystery, and he's got to, like he said, just focus on ball. But I think he had some great comments in general on that, and just really enjoyed that whole interview. And I agree, there's a hungry alumni base there with a lot of deep pockets, and you hear that all the time, and to the point, maybe even roll your eyes. But it is true. It's not a large fan base, but it is a fan base that does have its passionate folks who want to do whatever it takes, money-wise, facility-wise, whatever, to relive the glory years before the death penalty and everything spiraled after that. And they look around and they see a Baylor having success. They see a TCU going to the college football playoff championship game, and they go, why can't that be us? What's the difference? The difference only really is the conference right now at this point, but it's also facilities and recruiting and things like that. And so I think that they realize, hey, this is that little moment in time. I talked about that yesterday, that little wrinkle in time for Colorado where they kind of realize, hey, we need to make a move. I think SMU knows too, we got to get all our ducks in a row. Don't be South Florida or Memphis or whatever, for a few years there. Be ready for the call wherever it comes from, whenever it might come in. And I think he's the right guy to be there at the top, and they're going to do a good job. But fun to see where that all is going to head.
All right. Well, is it officially official? Have they finished the voting? Because they've essentially announced at the meeting that they're going.
They haven't voted yet, per Ross Dellinger. But basically, folks, Colorado's coming to the Big 12, barring the vote just going off of the rails. Multiple people have spoken. Regent Frank McNulty says it was not a slam dunk decision for him. This coming from Stuart Mandel. I liked the idea of the Pac-12 very much. Unfortunately, it seems that idea is no longer going to be realized. I do think that's unfortunate. So that is from, again, Colorado Regent Frank McNulty. And that was, I guess, the quote that basically everybody from every media outlet was retweeting or putting out there. Also, another regent, Leslie Smith, says she's a Southern Cal native and went to Pac-8 games growing up, and it broke her heart when USC and UCLA decided to leave. She apparently said, "I wish the Pac-12 the best. I am happy to be back in the Big 12, and I will be voting yes." So that is from another one of the regents that have spoken. Also, the resolution up for discussion, I pulled this from, Mandel. The Board of Regents hereby grants the University of Colorado Boulder authority to enter into an agreement with the Big 12. So that comes right prior to the vote. Also, Chancellor Phil DeStefano, a move to the Big 12 will set up long-term success and provide stability in an era of unprecedented change in college athletics and provide added exposure. Colorado President Todd Solomon, we think it's time to change conferences. So, folks, I don't know if I need to read any more to you, really. I think that kind of hammers home the point. But here's another regent just for a little cherry on top. Ken Montera, Colorado regent. I look forward to going back and watching us dominate in the Big 12 again. Now, hold up, wait a minute here. We're already coming out trash talking, but no, there's what's going on, and Regent Glenn Gallegos, it's not lost on me how big of a vote this is. At the end of the day, my fiduciary duty is to the university and will therefore vote yes. So we're getting a lot of yeses rolling in from the various regents as this vote is ongoing, but writing's on the wall here, and it is now official. The votes have been cast, and the University of Colorado has unanimously voted through their Board of Regents to approve a move for the school back to the Big 12. Colorado is headed back to the Big 12 as the Colorado Board of Regents have voted unanimously to authorize the Buffaloes picking up their bags and returning home in so many ways, their former home prior to the Pac-12. Colorado is back in the Big 12, folks.
Yep, and by the way, Colorado, they won 2 Big 12 championships, or have played in 2 Big 12 championship games, which is 2 more than most of the conference and 1 more than, I think, they're like tied for the most of the...
Well, it's Oklahoma's got a billion.
Of the teams that are in here now, like of the
current teams.
The 2024 teams, like the new Big 12.
Yeah, though Kansas State and Baylor have 3, and then Colorado's got 2, and I think TCU has a half or that one but yeah. They're right there. Like they're in that second
place. And Baylor only
place.
won one of their Big 12 championship games that they played in. So they won 2 conference titles without the championship game in that era where they didn't have it. But
still counts the same. Yeah. It's the same banner and all of that. But yeah, it's a little bit of a different era. And I think we've seen multiple conferences kind of go back and forth on that. But regardless of where they sit all time, they're going to add for their sake, hopefully, to those championship totals because that's what they're going to be competing for once again. Colorado unanimously voted through their Board of Regents to rejoin the Big 12. So there you go. I mean, months and months and months of discussion, a lot of wondering about what could possibly happen, all these different scenarios that were thrown out there. And Deion Sanders is, going to coach his first year in the Pac-12, but it looks like the Buffs are coming to the Big 12 in 2024. So, man, just taking a second to let it sink in, buddy. But long time getting to this point, and just kind of, I don't know about you, I'm just kind of at a loss for words. I know that's not great for this particular platform, and I'll be fine talking the rest of the way, but I'm just kind of like letting it sink in a little bit, and it's just kind of crazy because there's been so many times you're like, is anything going to happen, or are we just going to bang our heads against the wall? And now there is not just something happening, there's something pretty major happening. Colorado's now tweeted it out. It's all done. They're in the Big 12.
And time heals all wounds. I remember 13 years ago when Colorado left, the general sentiment, especially from the schools in Lone Star State, was get out, you dirty hippies. We don't need you anyway, which was that was anger and not the real feeling. The real feeling was one of panic even back then because they'd lost Colorado and Nebraska, and then a year later they were going to lose Mizzou and A&M. So, but that was the general feeling about Colorado. And then I know that initially when UCLA and USC left, the Pac-12, there were a lot of fans who were like, well, we don't want Colorado back. They didn't want us, so we don't want them. Mm-hmm. And then as time wore on, it was like, well, I don't know if that's a bad idea, getting Colorado back in the league. And I think it's a good idea for Colorado outside of media deals and all that stuff. If you want to have winning football, go back to the place where you won more. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. And even though that place is vastly different, they're only going to know a few of the people at the office now, but it is very different. Even still, I think it's the best thing for them moving forward. It's stable. You know what it's going to be. And the Pac-12 can just give them no answers. And I'm curious to see who the next one who gets fed up is, because I think from Thursday on was when the pedal got pushed to the floor, obviously, because Thursday they had the meeting of presidents where they were supposed to see parameters of a media deal. They clearly did not see really anything at that meeting. George Kliavkoff the next day goes up and says, we weren't going to announce it we're not going to announce it because we want to focus on the football, but they didn't have one anyway. Mm-hmm. And I'm not worried about anybody leaving. And that whole time, Rick George and Phil DiStefano are just bolting out of rooms.
Dude, the one thing that I said, and I was, this isn't like I told you by any means, I'm not that guy. But the one thing that I was very matter of fact about was when there were certain people out there saying, like, there's nothing going on. This is all BS. This is Big 12 propaganda. This is Endeavor. This is, whatever. And it's like, you can say what you want in regards to, like, they're not going to move, okay? If you want to have that opinion for any time in the last 12 months, that is absolutely well within reason, and I can understand it because just a few days ago, I felt like we're just at a stalemate, nothing's going to happen, right? But it became very, like, something, there was conversations, and we know there were conversations happening, but yet still got told, you're idiots, it's propaganda, there's nothing to it, and then it was, shift it to where, well, there's conversations maybe, but they're not talking about anything all that serious. And it's like, dude, come on now. Like, the longer this goes on, there's smoke. And, not just the longer this goes on, this is less than a week removed from Pac-12 media days. 6 days after their media days, answering questions about this TV deal, having their commissioner up at the podium. Look, Pac fans, I'm not trying to rub it in. This is just what's happened. 6 days later, Colorado's now a member of the Big 12. So there was more to it than just propaganda and discussions that didn't mean anything because that's just what you do, and they don't really have any stakes attached to them. No, there were very clearly some conversations that were a lot deeper than just artificial level, because this is the result of whatever's been bubbling up for the last several months. And I'm just amazed at how quickly it moved, right? I mean, that was like 0 to 100 in a matter of days. And here's now a joint statement from Chancellor Philip DiStefano, Athletic Director Rick George, who's quoted multiple times throughout this process. I mean, him, Robert Robbins, and Mr. Arizona State, blanking on his name. But Rick George certainly is one of those that's been out there talking, delivering little sound bites here and there along the way, and was pretty positively Pac-12, I guess, up until the point where they really felt they couldn't be anymore. And so here's what those two had to say. After careful thought and consideration, it was determined that a switch in conference would give CU Boulder the stability, resources, and exposure necessary for long-term future success in a college athletics environment that is constantly evolving. The Big 12's national reach across 3 time zones, as well as our shared creative vision for the future, we feel makes it an excellent fit for CU Boulder, our students, faculty, and alumni. These decisions are never easy, and we've valued our 12 years as proud members of the Pac-12 Conference. We look forward to achieving new goals while embarking on this exciting next era as members of the Big 12 Conference. So again, that from Chancellor Philip DiStefano and Athletic Director Rick George. And not surprising to see the mention of just the nature of the landscape of college athletics right now. But Paul, to hear him mention 3 time zones, and a shared creative vision, I think, that's obviously something that's been discussed quite a bit as well in this whole process and the Big 12's perspective. So clearly that was, a bit of part of their discussion, have another team out in the mountain time zone and expand your reach or just further it. With the addition of Colorado here. And welcome back, boss. Long time no see, but man, it brings me back to growing up and watching the old Big 12 and seeing the black and gold out there competing against, the likes of an Oklahoma State or an Iowa State. And certainly there will be some new matchups. I mean, we'll get a preview of a new matchup that never happened in the old Big 12, TCU and Colorado, almost right out of the gates. So that'll be a little preview of the new Big 12 in so many ways. So, yeah, crazy. But that happened quickly. That escalated quickly, I should say.
And I don't know, I really feel like the Pac didn't learn from watching the Big 12 at all. Bob Bowlesby was at Media Days. We had him on as happy and confident as he'd ever been. His speech was, man, this league we're just humming along. We're making great decisions. We really, every vote's unanimous. There's not really a lot of politicking anymore. And then he wakes up in the morning in Texas and Oklahoma are like, yeah, that was cool, but we're going to go. Mm-hmm. And then here George Kliavkoff is up and making some, the more vague it was just like, golly, you're going to walk up there, they're going to ask. They're going to ask, and you don't have an answer. It's really tough. It's really tough. And so once I heard that, and then you start hearing about, Colorado at Media Days. And most of you watching the show have never been to one or will never go to one. But it is the easiest place to talk to people ever. Yeah. There's no guardrails. There's nothing. That it is the time.
Luminaries aren't surrounded by 10 security guards, so you can't get close to them. It's not anything like that. You can walk up to Brett Yormark and start a conversation, basically. Yeah.
And so especially if you're gonna have a quick off the record talk, and I've had several of them there just for clarification purposes, it's the best place to do it. Like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Just can you fill me in on this here because I'm a little confused, and you get those details. It's the easiest place to do it, and for the president and the AD at Colorado to just bolt as soon as their obligations were done, very telling.
A statement from the commissioner's office in the Big 12 put out a note. Irving, Texas, July 27, 2023. The following statement was released today by the Big 12 Conference through its commissioner, Brett Yormark, regarding the University of Colorado, quote, they're back. So there's Brett Yormark. From downtown.
Yeah.
Man, I bet he's got a smile on his face right now.
Oh, I bet you
Fist pump, which, man.
Yeah. He's not going to sleep until this all is, he's just going to be ping-ponging all over the place trying to make the next move.
And look, he deserves a ton of credit. You can't give him all of the credit. Obviously, there's ADs, there's presidents, there's a lot of people involved there. But, yeah, that's a pretty big win for him. And well-played response to today's events. And there's no denying, no matter how many people want to paint him as some slickster, you know what I mean? Or some, I don't know, savvy businessman, cutthroat businessman or whatever from New York, whatever kind of weird stereotype of perception there may be, especially as he entered college athletics as an outsider, so to speak. Not any different really from George Kliavkoff. You've got to give him a lot of credit, no matter how you maybe felt at various points for the job that's been done over the last couple of years, and just completely revamping the I guess feel around the conference, the confidence levels around it, and then just being so proactive, along with the blessing obviously of the presidents and everyone else to go and be proactive and really be the opposite of the Pac-12. It's like we said earlier, they faced the same fork in the road. They basically showed the template to the Pac-12 in so many ways. Hey, we lost our two biggest brands, and we immediately went on the attack and on the hunt and went and grabbed 4 schools from the American Athletic Conference. And a year later, similar situation, out of the blue for the most part, 2 of the biggest brands, certainly one of the biggest brands. I know UCLA, maybe you could argue Oregon's, technically whatever. You don't have to get in the weeds on that.
They're, if you want to talk about the greatest basketball school ever when it comes to,
I'm just saying, if you want to football say differently, you'll say it's Utah and whatever, but they're one of the biggest brands. USC certainly, that's obvious. They lost those teams and were caught a bit off guard by that. And instead of doing what the Big 12 did and going, hey, let's go grab SMU, let's go grab San Diego State, let's go grab Tulane, let's go grab whoever, they just played it like it was a never-ending shot clock, and time ran out. And yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. I know there's now this belief that, hey, it's going to be okay because we'll go get San Diego State and SMU still, and it very well may be, but there are a lot of questions to answer. I'm fascinated to learn about whatever comes out of that meeting later on tonight, and to see how quickly they move, because can't slow play it now, fellas. You already saw what that did this time around, and I think the longer you take, the Pac-12 just increases the percentage chances, like with Colorado, of there being, potentially another team that goes, all right, we're tired of teetering and walking this tightrope. We're going to go land in a safety net, kind of like the Buffs just did. And so will be fascinating to see what all takes place here in the next few hours and days. Apparently, Philip DeStefano, Rick George will hold a press conference at 4 o'clock our time. No, it's 4:34 right now. At 5 p.m. Mountain. That had to be tomorrow, right?
That would be, no.
What's 5 p.m. Mountain?
Would be
6 our time?
Yeah,
okay. So
when we're done.
When we go off the air, we'll be able to turn right into the press conference of Philip DeStefano and Rick George, because that will be coming up at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And according to Ross Dellinger, then yes, we probably need to take a break or whatever you want to do here. Yeah. But CU officials, Brett Yormark, been in deep discussions for months. Big 12 expressed a desire for a decision from CU by August 1st. So here we are, days away. CU Chancellor Philip DeStefano expected Pac-12's George Kliavkoff to present TV deal figures last week. It didn't happen. A final straw. And here you go.
Yep, there we go. Confirms it. Did not get those TV numbers. And then here's the thing. You didn't get them, and then you had to listen to them and be like, well, we weren't going to announce it anyway. You're like, but you didn't even give them to us. Like, what are you talking about? You didn't have anything to announce to the people that that your duty is to do. There's more to Pac-12 to talk about.
This is really just getting started for them. I mean, that's, like I said earlier, that's kind of unfortunate for their fans, because the uncertainty just grows by leaps and bounds.
They've done a huge disservice to their fans.
Oh, yeah.
A huge disservice to their fans in all of this, through hubris or whatever you want to call it. And we'll talk about that next. This is 365 Sports.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma. And they have to come here. They're used to lights. They're used to the water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. it's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Colorado's sent out an email. Craig's going to read that in a second. Curious to know, I mean, I know the thoughts, but how the Pac-12 got here through just hubris and not reading the room very well is very surprising to me. I mean, I just think that, especially once the Big Ten took 2 teams and they're getting bigger, why would you not do that? Or here's the thing, once the SEC did it, before it happened to you, why not do it then? I know that USC and UCLA voted against it, but
yeah, that didn't help.
They didn't help, but and then when they left, why immediately okay, well, here's what we're going to do. There's just been no the feeling that everything was going to work out for them because they felt like and George Kliavkov said it. He thought the game of musical chairs was over, and that was pretty naive.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was definitely a lot of wrong assumptions in this whole process on their end, and when the book is written about this phase of realignment or the Pac-12 for that matter, I think you can look over particularly their recent history, but you can go back years and years and years. I mean, the multiple opportunities to pick off a Texas or an Oklahoma, they could have done that over a decade ago. Could have had both those teams, plus more, plus Tech, plus Oklahoma State, whatever. And hubris, snobbery, a variety of different factors played into them at each and every turn, deciding that wasn't in their best interest, that didn't fit their culture, and all of that. And I think in so many ways, some of their culture came back to bite them in the ass. Mm-hmm. I think just feeling like you're better than other people to a certain point, doesn't always work in your favor. And I think that bit them in this case a little bit of just maybe there was a sense of we're too good to lose a team to that conference. I don't know, but clearly they erred in their decisions regarding just the whole way this has played out. And the timing last week, obviously not being able to present numbers, we've now heard that was the final straw for Colorado. And then you hear about them exiting early and not talking to reporters. I just chalk that up to them catching a plane, and there's nothing to it. It's fine. Rick George has said multiple times now they're staying. They're going to wait for the numbers. So if you've waited this long, why not wait further? Well, I guess you don't wait further because you're tired of waiting, which is totally understandable. And you have to wonder, okay, if we're still waiting, how much longer are we talking about? Because we've waited. And then we waited 2 more months and nothing. And then we waited another month and nothing. And then we waited 3 more months and nothing. And then 2 more months and nothing. And then we got to Pac-12 Media Days. And all along we've heard new partners and new outlets and cutting edge and more money. There was a guarantee we will beat the Big 12's number is on Twitter somewhere, a direct quote from somebody. And who was running the propaganda now that we look back on it? Was it Endeavor or was it the mouthpieces of the Pac-12 in a lot of ways, if you look at the quotes over the last year? So, yeah, man, it's a bitter pill to swallow. That meeting tonight that's apparently going to happen with Kliavkov and, I guess, officials and the remaining schools will be just, gosh, that needs to be what they didn't stream on the Colorado website or another website. I'm very curious to see what the Board of Regents meeting pulled in viewers-wise. When it's all said and done. But, man, that Pac-12 meeting would pull in some eyeballs. But, yeah, I mean, that's going to have some leaks, you would think, and I can't wait to hear what those are. But they're going to have to go on the attack, and that's not a position that they've chosen to take at all. It really, in their various instances of similar situations where they could have gone and, grab teams. They've refused to do so for one reason or another, or teams, I guess, have maybe backed out. But it's crazy that we reached this point, and I just can't imagine what it probably feels like on the end of on the Pac-12's end for a lot of the folks involved. And like you said, man, I think it sucks what they shared with their fans. I mean, I do. I know there's plenty of great Pac-12 fans out there. We've had a great experience with a lot of them. And they just got lied to a lot, throughout this whole thing. You wanted to think that the people that don't have the narrative that you want are the ones that are lying to you, right? That's the easiest thing to believe because it doesn't fit what you want to believe. And it turns out that the folks that you're hoping were going to say the things that you wanted to hear were the ones that were just dragging you along the entire time. And that's even worse. So, yeah, that's something else that they will have to repair in so many ways with their fan base, I feel like. And look, there will be a lot of people like, I don't care, I'm Pac-12 for, that kind of thing, and it won't bother them. They don't care about realignment or Colorado or whatever, and that's fine. But for those who do care about such things, or those who do care about the future and kind of see the shifting landscape, I do think you have to be worried, and I do think you have to feel a little bit like you got stabbed in the back a little bit by the officials that you were entrusting to secure that future for your school and for the rest of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, by the way, today's a weird day in the world. Sports-wise, just want to mention this real quick. Shohei Ohtani threw a shutout today, has turned around and hit home runs in his first 2 at-bats of the second part of the doubleheader.
Wow.
And
insane.
In front of Congress today, there was a guy saying there are aliens, or yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
Yesterday. There are aliens, but I can't give you many details, but there are.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I'll tell you off-camera stuff. But, yeah, it's an interesting time in this world. That is, to be sure.
Yeah, and then Colorado's going back to the Big 12. So a lot of wild things are happening. So, Craig, Colorado sent out an email.
Yeah, they sent out an email just a little while ago, the Buffs Blast newsletter, I guess, or this is from, I guess, sponsored by 9 News up there maybe. But the Buffs Blast from Chancellor Philip DeStefano and Athletic Director Rick George. I'll paraphrase a little bit because it's not long, but it's a few paragraphs here. They announced that the University of Colorado Boulder will join the Big 12 conference in time for the 24-25 season. Decisions of this magnitude take an enormous amount of consideration over a number of different factors, but ultimately we decided the stability, resources, and exposure would position CU Boulder, our programs, and our student athletes for long-term future success. So basically the first part of this seems to be kind of what I read a few minutes ago as far as that other statement released, but there was this extra at the end. Some will see this as a return to our roots, but this was a decision made solely based on the future. And we hope you'll join us for this exciting new era for CU Boulder. In the meantime, thank you for your continued support of Colorado athletics as we get ready for a successful final season in the Pac-12. Go Buffs. So yeah, not a lot to that as in terms of needing to explain much. I mean, I think he said it all with that line about some will see this as a return to our roots, but this was a decision made solely based on the future, and we'll hope you'll join us for this exciting new era for CU Boulder. So, yeah, I mean, they heard enough last week, and it was time to make a move for them and them alone for their future, and that was coming back to the Big 12.
Yeah. And that's every school is going to operate individually. And
that's what you now wonder and worry about in that room tonight, right?
Yeah.
It's like, is Utah talking to somebody? Because when the Big 12 was going out on its little hunt, I remember thinking Mac Rose is telling us everybody's on page. And I'm thinking that's great, but Mac's got to be side-eyeing Oklahoma State, right? And side-eyeing TCU and thinking I trust them, but I can't you know what I mean? I can't fully trust them because I know they're going to do just what we did, because if the ACC came calling or something for Baylor at one point, guess what? They probably would have possibly jumped. Same for Oklahoma State or for Iowa State or for any of the number of teams that were kind of on that life raft, for Texas Tech, obviously, for a moment. So, yeah, Paul, I think that's going to be interesting is they've been trusting each other. Now one of the people in the trust tree jumped out of that bad boy and cut off a branch on the way down. And now they're all still sitting up there. But you're somebody else got a saw? Where am I? Do we need to make the jump first to save ourselves? That's what's going to be the next part of this game.
So one of the things that my wife has gotten me into is Big Brother. I've told you about this. And I'm going to tell you, if you watch an episode of Big Brother and then think about conference realignment, It's the same thing because everybody's in like different parts of the house. They're trying to make alliances. Like, all right, we're gonna vote Craig out, right? Craig's a problem. He's a strong player. We can't we can't get to the final if Craig's here. We're gonna vote Craig out. We'll put Levi up next against him, and then that's how it's gonna work. We'll be fine. Okay, everybody, all right, good. We're gonna vote Craig out, and then they go on another room and they're like, hey, Jack, what do you think? And he's like, look, I'm voting for Craig. I don't care what you guys say. And
Jack would do that too.
Yeah. And then he makes a compelling case. You've got Levi sitting on the block, or Craig sitting on the block, think he's good, and all of a sudden the room moves in a different direction.
Gotcha.
And that's how this is with conference realignment right now, because everybody in that room tonight is going to be because the meeting is not about what you individually do moving forward. No. You're going to the meeting to say, what can we do moving forward?
Do we add?
Do we have a plan? Yeah. What's the plan? Do we all like this? What was it? But also you're going to have schools walking out of that meeting going, okay, so that's where we are there. You guys called Brett Yormark and let's find out what's going on, in Dallas right now. So it's going to keep going and going like that until, until the round stops. And
and I think that we should probably learn more, whether it's tonight or tomorrow, about obviously what takes place in that meeting. You would think they would expedite the expansion process. SMU, San Diego State, obviously have been talked about throughout this entire ordeal. They seemed like at one point in time when we still believed the Pac-12 was going to put together a TV deal with time enough to remain as is, that they would be slam dunk additions, possibly a two-lane, even like how big their aspirations are, we didn't really know. And now instead of slow playing those schools while they tried to work the other things out, I mean, it seems like they'd have to kind of get on their game pretty quickly to fast forward. But again, like, what do you do with no TV deal? How do the buyouts work for those schools? I mean, San Diego State ready to write that big check? I know the Mustangs will. I know they'll write it as big of a check as needed to get out of the American and move to the PAC. But what is San Diego State capable of doing? And so there's just a lot of now just side stories that pop up as a result of this. We can close one chapter on Colorado. That's been written now, and now it's a turning of a new leaf for their story. But for the rest of the Pac-12 and this whole realignment phase, that we now enter a kind of new territory. And to that point, this is from Brett McMurphy, who's taken his fair share of darts and arrows and whatnot over the last year in regards to his reporting about all this. So I know he's pretty pumped up today, I'm imagining. But he said Big 12, and here we go with the expansion kind of structure, not anything official, but Big 12 will add between 1 and 3 schools to join Colorado in 2024. Sources told Action Network HQ, league will first seek others from Pac-12 to join. If none do so, Big 12 would add from Group of 5, UConn, Memphis, San Diego State, or UNLV to reach an even number of teams in 2024. Here goes Memphis. What is it? It's the Godfather. You pulled me back in.
Yeah.
There's Memphis. Like we were finally over this, and now you're bringing us up again. So those poor folks. But maybe this is the great news they've always been waiting for. But UConn, Memphis, San Diego State, UNLV, the schools that he mentioned from the Group of 5 that would get some Big 12 attention, depending on what happens with those they are pursuing still out of the Pac-12. But they are looking to add between 1 and 3 schools to join Colorado in 2024, so next year, per Brett McMurphy.
Yep. By the way, Brett McMurphy, 4:30 tomorrow, right here on 365 Sports.
Him and Stuart Mandel.
Yeah, back to back. I'm excited to ask Stuart about how is it, because you could tell in his writing, especially after last week, how his tone had changed, because he was very adamant that this would stay together, and he took some shots, I think, in anger in Twitter at the beginning. I'm going to give Stuart the benefit of the doubt. He's been doing this a long time, because when people come at you, sometimes you get a little snarky. But how his opinion did change and how it morphed for him, who was very adamant about the Pac-12's position, and now it's on very uneven ground.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he is somebody who's based out west, right? Or at least was at one point in time, I believe, if not still is. And so, I mean, you think that he's got a little bit more insight there, and just his time reporting and stuff over the years, a lot of connections. And so he felt one way about everything, and his tune slowly changed. But guess what? So did the athletic directors. tunes, or at least one in Rick George. One president's tune changed. And that's just what happens when something continues to go on along. You didn't have to feel that way or not, but I just always believe that, hey, yeah, the longer it goes, the more of a chance that something could happen, because without an end, there's always a chance, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that, it was natural to feel that way at one point in time, and then realize after like the fifth preemption of an announcement or whatever, the fifth delay because of spring break or what have you, that maybe they're just kind of not going to be right where I thought they were. And yeah, maybe something is happening, and his tune definitely changed. And to the point of, like, he sent out this message just a little while ago. And this will really tell you, kind of how much this whole thing flipped on its head. While the Regents were all respectful in their comments, just an absolutely humiliating moment for the Pac-12. The common theme, a school that left the Big 12 in 2010 due to instability is rejoining the same league 13 years later due to more stability. So you put it that way, and it really is like, wow, that is crazy that this was the conference that was always losing schools, and now they brought one back into the fold 13 years later. So, yeah, that's a bit of egg on the face for the Pac-12, unfortunately for them. Yeah, and, like you said, spring break, I was waiting for George Kliavkoff to be like, we're not going to announce it next week either because, guys, it's Shark Week, and, Nobody announces big media deals on Shark Week out of respect for Shark Week.
Right,
and
we can't do that. Jason Momoa's making money here. Let's not mess around. When we come back, Jim Williams, media consultant, writes for Forbes, among others. He will hop on with us and try to explain where the Pac goes from here and trying to form a media deal because the circumstances have changed. This is 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton. Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
My bad on that. We decided to skip off the radar today because we had to keep on the radar. So we go to Jim Williams, who is very much on the radar. But Jim, our good friend, the Pac-12 media deal might have fallen straight off of it right now because circumstances have changed, and they've changed because George Kliavkoff went to the Pac-12 presidents last week, didn't have anything to give them, and Phil DeStefano, Rick George decided that's it. We're leaving Vegas. We're going to go back to Boulder, and we're going to hammer out this deal with the Big 12. Where do they stand now, even with, Apple being involved potentially, with some of these other, providers being involved? Where are they?
I think the professional term is hell. I'm not totally sure, but that would be close to it. They don't actually on board. I honestly, Paul, I know I'm trying to be flip here, but I can't see that anybody's going to sit down and seriously take, whatever deal they had or was close to having, or
hey, Jim, we're going to call you back real quick. You're roboting out a little bit there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Garrett's going to call you back real quick. So,
okay.
Yeah, we'll get Jim back on the air. I want to make sure that's a clear conversation. And yeah, can't wait to hear his thoughts, but I think you got the gist of it there. They're in hell right now after this news today. And while we're awaiting getting Jim back on, I want to repeat this from Brett McMurphy from 10 minutes ago, friend of the show. Big 12 will add between 1 and 3 schools to join Colorado in 2024. Sources told Action Network HQ, league will first seek others from Pac-12 to join. If none do so, Big 12 would add one group of 5, UConn, Memphis, SDSU, San Diego State, or UNLV to reach an even number of teams in 2024. So, looking at Pac-12 or bust, and if it's bust, then one of those 4 schools, UConn, Memphis, San Diego State, or UNLV, would likely get the call to make a partner with Colorado. So just want to throw that back out there and do so in time for 24.
And we know which one that Brett Yormark prefers right
Brett
now.
Yormark obviously wants UConn. Yeah,
but Jim Williams rejoins us now. And Jim, okay, they're in a sinking ship right now, it would appear. So how do they bail water out of it and come back?
I would take a quick look at whatever deal I had, and if it was a heavy streaming deal, I wouldn't care, because you're not in a position of strength at all. You have to get what deal you can get your hands on. And right now, that's where you have to decide, if you are these 9 schools, if you want to stay together. And if that's the case, then you're going to have to live with whatever you've got, because you can't, this can't go on forever. You have to create a deal. You don't want to start the football season without it. And, right now, you also have to have a meeting, which I guess they're having this afternoon, which is, who else is going to leave us? Are you guys still in? I'm having, Big East flashbacks here. Because it is very much like what happened in the Big East, where people were, in meetings and said, "Oh, don't worry, we're here," and you knew they were gone. So, if I don't see where they're not going to get the linear, that's never going to happen. The 50%, forget that. So if that's a problem for Arizona, Robin knows it; he's there. So it's just, to me, it's going to have to be streaming, and it's going to have to be perhaps maybe some CW stuff. Perhaps maybe you can get Fox on a really cheap deal. I don't know. But right now, it's going to be tough.
Jim, you've obviously been on the show plenty of times. We've talked about all sorts of different scenarios and storylines and all of that. When did you get a sense that it wasn't just smoke with Colorado? There was some flames starting to flicker a little bit, and this obviously moved very quickly, just within a matter of days. Just what was kind of your initial reaction once you realized what was taking place here?
Well, Monday, I had heard that things were moving in that direction, and you know, you guys know, you call people to find out what's going on, and nobody knows what's going on. And it's when nobody knows what's going on that scares you. And, you know, when I found out about it, I just thought, okay, this is going to, you know, this is what is going to be a stress moment. In other words, either they can survive with 9 ad, or they're going to get, you know, or there's going to be a jailbreak. And one way or the other, we're going to find out. And in the next 48 to 72 hours, we'll probably find out. I mean, there's no reason if you're Arizona and you want to leave to stay.
No, I mean, right now they can't present you with one.
No, exactly.
So, Jim, do you think there was ever a TV deal that they rejected, or has there ever really been one on paper that they felt good about even discussing?
I had heard that there were 2 scenarios here. One was an Apple and a partner, meaning a linear partner, maybe CW, maybe Fox, where they would get money, but they would not get to 50% on the linear. They could get to close, but they couldn't get to 50. I heard that there was an ESPN deal that would pay them less, give them 50% linear, but there's a significant amount of money less. And so those were the 2 deals that I heard had been presented to them. And there really wasn't any money. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that there was money that was passed or, you know, money that was on there, but my guess is that they knew what the ceiling, what the floor would be on it. And the floor on the ESPN deal was incredibly, it was about 20, you know, might have been 17. And and the Apple deal might have been, you know, closer to what, Big 12 got. But it was, you know, it came with the asterisk of it being a streaming deal. So that's where they were. They couldn't square that circle and couldn't get a consensus on it. And so that's all I've heard. I mean, from that standpoint. So, look, guys, I mean, we've talked about this and we've had a number of really good discussions with you guys, and we've always come to the conclusion that, you know, the only people that can blow this up is them. And it looks like, you know, if there isn't a foundation crack at this point, I don't know when there's going to be. But it does put a very different, I mean, you know, you had a bad hand to begin with, right? But this one with Colorado leaving puts you, you know, you're behind the 8 ball to begin with. And now what leverage do you have? You don't have any leverage.
So, Jim, when he made the comment, and I know you can't read Cleo Ka's mind and all of that, but, you know, when he was up there at media days, and obviously that was the straw that broke the camel's back, was that they didn't have anything to show. Colorado in particular said, okay, we're done here. But they talked about how, you know, the longer it's gone on, the more opportunities that have arisen. And I think everybody was kind of like, what? Like, how is that even possible? So was that just speak, just to satisfy for the time being? Is like, where do you think that, what was that trying to get at exactly? Just that there are more streamers, but he didn't say the other side, which is, but it's all for less money.
Honestly, it was one of those spit take moments, right? It's like, what? Mm-hmm. You know, the longer we wait, the better it gets. You know, I think, Paul, you and I had this conversation last time. Mm-hmm. And that was, you asked me, I think the question was, well, now that we've gone this far, do you think that there's, a chance that, there could be somebody that came back into the picture, right? And we said exactly this thing. We said exactly this. We said, yeah, usually when you come back, right, it's like you and I and Craig waiting to buy, a boat, right? We're going to wait till the price is such that we can afford it and that we want it, right? So, yeah, people would come back, but if they're not coming back to pay you more money, they're coming back because, all right, now we might be able to get this, on the cheap.
So, with the potential to lose other members, if what Brett McMurphy just tweeted out and that they say they get 3 teams, you lose 3 teams, is there enough that they can add to be the PAC conference anymore? Or if they lose 3 more teams, is it everybody's off the ship?
I'm sorry, what did Brett say? I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we were reading it while we were trying to get connected with you. He said that, according to his sources, that the Big 12 would like to add 1 to 3 more Pac-12 schools to go along with Colorado. If they don't, if that does not happen, they'll add a group of 5 school like UConn, Memphis, San Diego State, or UNLV to reach an even number of teams in 2024. So,
and if you're a betting man, it's UConn.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim, and that was something that Gonzaga, I was mentioning this earlier, they just completely fallen off the map entirely, and kind of it almost seems like in their place, UConn's sort of risen. And clearly we've heard, and I don't know what all you've heard, but that's obviously a Your Mark project as much as anything. I don't know that all the ADs are really all that enthralled by the idea of UConn, but Your Mark likes what he sees there and what could happen in the future. And from your perspective, what is your thoughts on UConn, why that would make sense or not, and just the whole strategy here potentially by the Big 12?
Well, actually I tweeted that out from a story that I'd written about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that UConn, felt that it was a matter of if not, when, not if.
Right.
They would get in. And here's the theory of the case Connecticut, University of Connecticut, has a better footprint in New York City than Rutgers. Okay. Brett Yermark is a New Yorker. He knows, that they could play in the Garden. Not every game, obviously, in the Garden, but what they could do is UConn could come and UConn would fill the Garden. And with with Baylor, with Kansas, with all the wonderful, stuff going on, can you imagine holding a Big 12 basketball tournament in the Garden or at Barclays Center in Brooklyn? It would be an amazing situation. This might be one of those cases where the commissioner, Yormark, has said, look, guys, I would like this to happen. And he's done so much for the conference that it would be very difficult for them to say, you know what, maybe we give the commissioner a commissioner's choice. And I don't know that to be a fact, guys. Right. I'm just saying that, if Brett Yormark wants UConn, I can assure you it's not because he just likes going to Stores, Connecticut, because I can guarantee you that's not a lot of fun. But it is, he knows the brand. He realizes there is tremendous, he's got a basketball history. We all know that, both men and women's basketball. And in all honesty, it's not that much different football-wise in Colorado.
No, it's not, especially not recently, for sure. Jim, how does the Pac-12 keep getting in this mess? Is it hubris? They lost 3 teams in a year, and they still. It still feels to me like they haven't realized that they've lost all 3 of them.
Right. We used hubris before, and that works. But the other thing too, guys, and this is just my observations from trying to figure out what's going on with this group, is I don't know that the presidents out there, and I'm not speaking for all of them. I'm not speaking for any of them, frankly. I'm just speaking for my guess of it. Is that they just look at athletics in a whole different way than, the Big 12 does in other conferences. They are, and it's more like 5 or 6 of them. It's not all of them, but they just don't value the athletics as much as they value the academics. And so, basically they had a price. They priced themselves out of it, which is why ESPN and Fox walked away. And, at the end of the day, as I said before and started this, and we've always said it when we've been on here, that the only people who can blow it up is them, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. It's just they've had opportunities. I don't know. In some regards, I'm not saying Kliavkoff is in any way, shape, or form, absolved of everything here, but some of this, if you take your best and finals to these guys and they say, well, I'm sorry, that's not going to do it for us. Well, what's he supposed to do? So at the end of the day, and, maybe we can, the three of us can write a movie or a book or something and figure it out. But I guarantee you it's a matter of, you had 10 presidents who I don't think they agreed on much. I really don't. And I think at the end of the day, they can sit back and look at it and, what's Stanford going to do? Stanford's going to sit there and go, I got $8 billion literally in the bank. I don't need this. Okay. University of California. I mean, there are universities out there that, that are in the PAC that value athletics, but not to the point where they're going to go to the mat and worry about it. So I know that sounds bizarre, but, that's not, I'm sure that I'm now going to get hate mail from Washington, Oregon, Utah, and pretty much everywhere else. But I just, there's a different mindset. The different mindset is, that's one part of it. The other part of it is they never, ever, ever controlled the narrative. They never did. They were never out front on anything. How do you let San Diego State, how do you go to SMU and to talk to San Diego State? You don't put San Diego State in, they get bounced to the Mountain West. And, you go and literally go to a basketball game at SMU and you hang them out to dry. So, I don't understand. I mean, if there basically was a misstep to make, they made it every time. And the amount of unforced errors, just the weight of it, I'm sure drove, Colorado crazy.
Jim, when it comes to now what's next for the Pac-12, we know that there's like emergency meetings going on, and I'd imagine that's going to take up a few hours of their evening. They're going to have to, be proactive for the first time in a long time. And that's why the Big 12's where they are and why the Pac-12's where they are, is they took two different, stances coming out of losing teams. You lose Colorado, and there's some that are like, okay, whatever. They'll be easy to replace by SMU in the Dallas market, San Diego State in the San Diego Southern Cal market. From your standpoint, obviously TV networks aren't going to rush after they just lost another team to give them more money and that. But what's going to be the reaction, you think, of a potential TV partner to the idea of they just lost a team, but hey, no, look, we're adding San Diego State and SMU. Like, how do you think that works now? And also bearing in mind that at any moment, like, just for example, Oregon could be like, hey, we're out too. How does that work now based on the Colorado move alone?
Call Mike Oresco. I'm sure he can tell you.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't help because the first thing I'm going to ask is, look, guys, there's a lot of attractive, teams here. Okay. You can make a case that Oregon, Washington, Utah, and even though Stanford's had some bad years, Stanford isn't a bad school. So you've got some teams there with value. Arizona State, at the moment is still there. So you can make that case. But the case I'm going to ask you is, I want to know, if we put this together, are these guys going to be here, by the time the ink dries on the contract?
Well, Jim, yeah. Jim, what do you see as you said 48 to 72 hours. What do you, in your opinion, of covering this for a year now, are the most likely options for the Big 12?
Well, and this is a huge if the 9 teams stay together, then they can add 2 or 3, and I would add 3 or 4, just to make sure, to backfill. And then you go and you, as I say, you're basically, you look at what the best offer on the table is, and you take it, because you just can't. You need to get some positive press, and adding teams and grabbing a contract is about the best possible way you've got at this point. And look, you said it; they're not dealing from strength. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, thank you so much for jumping on with us. Always enjoy talking to you, and we will be talking again soon, I'm sure.
Are you like everybody else who's been talking about this, and our various other friends we've made along the way and guests, of like a sense of relief in some? I mean, I know you're not rooting for anybody and all that, and technically we aren't either, but just to see something tangible happen, was it kind of a relief in so many ways following realignment?
It was. I mean, today was a kind of a busy day, but other than that, no, it's look, I think that the closer we get to playing football, the happier all of us will be.
Yeah.
And, and if this was going to happen, and I mean, come on, you guys know, and I know, it was dangling out there for a long time that the possibility would happen. And so I guess the probability of it happening and it happening, made things that got real. Things got real fast. And I think that hopefully we can get back to normal here in the not too distant future. You're going to go off to a vacation, so good on you, buddy. Leaving us here to hold forward. But no, seriously, guys, it's I think the next 72 hours are big, because at that point somebody's going to have a come to Jesus moment as to what is going on with the conference. And those conversations, having going back to the Big East situation, they're not comfortable. They're not going to be comfortable at all, because it's going to be knives out. We're going to, it's going to be who's in and who's out, and who's lying to us and who's not.
Oh, boy.
It gets ugly. I mean, I can remember back at the Big East situation, man, there are people who still don't talk to each other in that Big East situation.
That's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been 10 years, 13 years.
Yeah.
So, it's, again, there are guys from different universities who just literally were friends forever, and now they're not. So it's, it gets ugly. And I think over the next 72 hours, it's going to get ugly in the PAC. But at the end of those 72 hours, they either are going to know, are we a 9 group, or are we a 7, or where are we? So stay tuned, folks. Keep the seatbelt buckled.
Jim Williams with us.
Guys, it's always a pleasure. Craig, have a fun vacation, bud.
Hey, thank you, Jim. Appreciate you.
Jim Williams, Forbes columnist, regular contributor to the show, media consultant. He's been in the business for a long time. He's covered a lot of things, and has been great for us here on the show.
Yeah, he's been on this journey with us throughout the last year at least, right? We first started talking to Jim, and maybe give or take a little more. Always great to hear his thoughts, and especially somebody with his background and perspective, and he's a fun follow, and does a great job in kind of sorting through all this for novices like us that don't know. But he also, got into some just general questions anybody would have, like, how do you hold this together now? Like, what does that even look like? And there's just a lot to absorb, guys, right? Like, there's just a lot happening all at once, and reports from every direction. And now obviously you've got a conference that's scrambling, one that just made a huge move and is quite proud of itself, as they should be at the moment. That was a long time coming for the Big 12. Many, many, many months of strategy and waiting and being proactive, and it's all paying off now, at least as far as this one move goes. And so it does feel like in in a good way, because I do think the games will overshadow a lot of this once they start up here in just a few weeks. But in a good way, we're moving forward in the whole realignment saga, and there's now, okay, we can close this one chapter and we can open up another, and that's a very interesting one, because now it's not, well, let's just wait on the Pac-12 TV deal and then something can happen. It's like, nope, we're past that point now. Like, now it's like they've got to scramble, they got to add some teams, they got to still get a TV deal. The Big 12 saying through media, we want 1 to 3 teams if they're Power 5, and if they're not, we want one of these group of 5 teams, and they named the 4 teams that they're looking at. So, he explained why UConn makes a lot of sense, but did want to clarify, or not clarify, but earlier in the week we were talking about UConn, and I was saying that I'm not really super high on that idea, because it's coming from the standpoint of, you add, let's say, Colorado and UConn, and that's fine if that's what happens in the long run, but just the idea of like they were going to just make those moves and be done just doesn't make any sense to me. So I was talking from the standpoint of, why are you adding them before you're potentially adding any other Pac-12 school that would be a bigger get for you? And so that's what it looks like the Big 12 is in fact doing. They've added one. They're going to look at the rest of the conference and say, any other takers? We'll take at most 3 of you guys. And if no one says yes, or if only one says, if one says yes, whoever that may be, then it sounds like business would shut down. If 2 or 3 say, hey, we want in, then it sounds like, they would complete that and then shut it down. Or if none of those schools are interested in joining Colorado and coming along for the ride, then sounds good, like good news for UConn, or potentially, UNLV, Memphis, or San Diego State, which would be an interesting story in and of itself. So, yeah, there's some big dominoes left to fall.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll take a break right here. We'll come back. We'll kind of sort out this Brett McMurphy tweet as well, and who would be the best fit. I think anybody's a fit, honestly. Like, I think that outside of travel distance, the Big 12 will be happy. If they get 3 teams and 2 of those teams are Washington State and Oregon State, if the others didn't want to come, then they've still accomplished their mission. They got out west, yeah. And there's a lot of people that would argue those are better fits anyways than a lot of the others. Washington State and Oregon State, not too different than many of the schools in the league. They're not different than, if you look at Tech, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, those schools are all very similar. I mean, they fit here in the conference. When we come back, we'll discuss that. This is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How crazy is this? 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport totals, values of $4,000 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. How crazy is that? Or the 2023 Jeep Compass, get 10% below MSRP. That's right, these deals are hot, just like our summer days in Texas. Remember, first responders get another $500 in savings, so come find the Jeep that's right for you and save big at Alan Samuels in Waco. Make this the summer sales event at Alan Samuels during the hot days of summer, and this month in July, get legendary 2023 Dodge Chargers or Challengers, SXT, GT, or RT models, your choice, with total values up to $2,000. Alan Samuels in Waco is the place for you to shop for your next Dodge. Shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and find the hot rod for you. Come by and visit the showroom at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. See the Demons and Scat Packs they have loaded the sales floor with. They won't last long, as you truly have the last call models of legendary muscle cars, only at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
So now we brace for what the next news is. Because now, and here's the thing about it, we've been holding off for a year on having anything, but now it won't be a year. It'll be far less than that because Brett McMurphy tweeted this, and if this pans out, the Big 12 will add between 1 and 3 schools to join Colorado in 2024. League will first seek others from Pac-12 to join. If none do so, Big 12 would add 1 group of 5, UConn, Memphis, San Diego State, or UNLV to reach even number of teams in 2024.
Yeah, and there was a correction to that tweet that is very important. A single character in that tweet. The original one did not say 1 group of 5. It just said would add group of 5. So that would lead you to believe, if you wanted to read into that way, of maybe multiple group of 5s could get the invite. But obviously the Big 12 still has to have some additive value, which is where the Pac-12 would be that. And they're not going to take on 3 group of 5 schools because then the money goes down. So, yeah, very important correction there when he said 1 group of 5. So you're not going to get a combo of UConn, San Diego State, or whatever. And, you know, listening to Jim and listen to people we've talked to behind the scenes, UConn very much a your mark thing. That's who he wants. You know, if you want to go out west, San Diego State, I mean, you wonder about them, but Memphis, poor Memphis, they've been out there waiting for forever. And then UNLV is like, hey, we're the future here. You know, that would be something to go take Pac-12 Media Day location and add a team. But I feel like if you were going to do that, you probably would have done that by now. But now with Colorado moving, maybe that opens up, you know, all sorts of other possibilities. Clearly it opens up all sorts of other possibilities. But yeah, 1 group of 5, which would make the league a 14-team league and get to that round number. But shoot, maybe up to 3 Pac-12 schools if they were open to that idea, which would be crazy and obviously take up a lot of our talk time. But just thankful that there's some finality, at least in one of these storylines, and that is Colorado now has returned to the Big 12, which is still just kind of crazy to say. I don't know if that's going to sink in for a little while. Can't wait to hear what Dion has to say about it eventually, because we've already heard from their chancellor and their president and some of their regents. But we know that he had at least some small hand in in making this happen as well. So now we wait. What's the next shoe to drop? And obviously it's not all in the Big 12's control, because those PAC folks are meeting right now, tonight, and they're going to probably have to make a quick move. But the whole idea now of what they said all along, first you get the TV deal done, then we sign a grant of rights, then we focus on expansion.
You can't.
I mean,
I don't know how you.
I don't know how you order that now. I mean, if you don't have a TV deal now, do you like?
How can you do it?
How do you add schools and tell? Like, what do you tell them? Because what is the TV deal now with one less team? What does the TV deal look like? How does Colorado affect that? Not that they were like worth $100 million to it, but yeah, like the whole scenario has already changed a little bit from what it was just a day ago.
Yeah, and you can maybe guarantee that they might get a raise from where they are, but I mean, you have no numbers, none at all. Okay, so Super Chats, got quite a few of them. Chase Wade, $1.99. Get Coach Prime on the show.
Oh, man.
Look, that would be great. We have, Smokey and I interviewed him at a Super Bowl when he was just lowly NFL Network commentator. Prime. And I say that in jest, Dion, if you ever do happen to see this bit, and I don't want you to get offended, but so
you watch out, you're gonna end up on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, I know.
He's talking about
you
not believing in him and the Buffs, and like they're gonna come to the Big 12, and
Look, Dion and I are both from North Fort Myers, Florida.
That's true.
We both went to Florida State.
Yep.
We're both electric media personalities.
Sure.
I don't see a whole lot of differences.
Yeah.
I mean, we're practically separated at birth.
Yeah, I mean, you do that little dance he used to do, a little shuffle that he did after interceptions when you walk in the studio every day.
I knew. We're so the same.
Yeah, we would love to have Dion on the show.
He will be the hardest guy to get.
But he will be the absolute hardest guy to get. There's just some people that are difficult to get, and he's one of them over our experiences. I can't imagine that's gotten any better now at Colorado. I don't think he's just doing any interview that's asked. But I can promise you this, we will work on it, and we will do everything in our power to try and make that happen. And you know what? We have a better chance now than we did a few hours ago. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because now we have the fact that they're going to be in the Big 12.
I think we will have a good shot eventually to get Rick George and probably Phil DeStefano on.
Well, you know what? For sure.
Yeah.
But talk to Dion at Media Day next summer.
Yeah. And again, it's going to be everybody's going to ask, but we're going to ask. We're not going to stand. We're not going to ask. Yeah. And we're not going to stop asking until they tell us yes, and then we'll ask for the next time. So because that's what we do. Jason W, $2. Paul Catalina thought this. He said PC never thought this would happen. Craig didn't care. Okay, on my end, I will tell you, I never said I never thought it would happen. I said for months I never felt the conditions were ripe for it then. Then we got to media days, and the soil was tilled, the seeds were planted, and George Kliavkov, essentially said that, we're ready to harvest. So, without even knowing that that's what he was saying, but so I wouldn't say never. I just thought that if you looked around, it wasn't right for the Pac-12 to do it then. But as we got on through the months, and we've all talked about this in the show many times, it just felt like, when do you get to the point like Colorado did of like, look, we can't go on with zero information anymore.
Yeah.
And best of luck to you guys if you get $31.8 million and we're missing out. But we have to know. We've got a plan for some things. And that's what they did.
Yeah, man. And I care enough to have talked about this every day for like 2 years. But to your point, I don't, if Colorado had said today that they weren't coming, I wouldn't care. I think it's fun to talk about. I think it's cool and unique, and it provides some really interesting storylines. So I'm happy for that. Like, I'm by no means ever against the idea, but it was just like, if Colorado wasn't coming, does that change my life in any significant way? Or does that change my talking about the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or whatever? No. So in that way, like, it wasn't, make or break for me to see that happen. If the Big 12, after all they went through and added the 4 they did, just stayed pat for like the next 10 years and they were able to survive that way, I'd be totally okay with that. But this is just an unexpected cherry on top that I think is fun, and I'll be more than happy to talk about it. But, yeah, I mean, after a while, I just didn't care to hear any more rumors. I wanted, like, I think I laid it all on the line on Monday of, like just something happened already. And not that I'm forcing the issue by any means. I don't have that power. But, like, I'm just sick of talking about scenarios. I want to see something actually occur, and it's, like, less than 20. No, actually, it's like an hour later, there was all of a sudden like, boom, this is exploding. So I'm thankful for that. And yeah, I don't care if they add another team. It's just that now, like, my OCD with being at 13 would be a little weird. I don't like that. So we do need to see one more. But I honestly, I don't care who that is. Like, if it's UConn, cool. It won't get me super excited. No offense to them. But yeah, I'd rather it be Washington or something. But I think it's all a good deal. And you're right. It's crazy times, and now we can start to kind of reflect back on just this whole ordeal and kind of where we were at various points. And I'm thankful that it happened when it did, because I couldn't take much more speculation without some actual substance.
I mean, I hate the offseason when it gets to the point of, like, where you're, in any sport, where you're talking about free agency or, like, what, and I've done this for years covering the Cowboys, where, you get to the inevitable disappointing end of their season, and then everything you talk about for a while, or not everything, but most of the things you talk about are speculative in nature, and it's hard to...
Yeah, who are they going to draft? Who are they going to sign in free agency? Yeah, that's a lot of it.
And so, so it gets... Some of that's interesting, some of it just gets repetitive. So this had gotten very repetitive. Over the time. Kim Coulter, good buddy Kim, $4.99 Super Chat. Arizona State, Oregon, Washington State, Oregon State. Which schools do you leave behind if we're only taking 3 more? And I would think that...
I think if you just get to pick, right? Is that what Kim's asking? Yeah. Okay, Oregon and Washington are taking 2 of those spots right away. Like, that's my no-brainer, no-doubter. What about you, Paul?
I'd say those are 2 for sure that you're taking. And then I think I would take Arizona State over Arizona personally, but I do think that that's not... I don't think that those 2 are so far apart that you would, that it would. But I do think that the 3 big ones there, and the 3 biggest brand names, honestly, are and you're also talking about Seattle and Phoenix, in that, maybe more specifically because of where they sit.
Phoenix can be debated because neither one of those Arizona schools are in Phoenix proper. But
I mean, Scottsdale is Phoenix.
Oh, I know. You're right. But
Tempe,
Tempe and Tucson, though, is what we're talking.
Yeah.
But Scottsdale, that is greater Phoenix.
Yeah,
but
Tempe and Scottsdale are all right. Everything's right there.
Tempe, Tucson is what you're getting, but you hope that brings you the Phoenix market and the Arizona as a whole. Yeah. But did he include Utah on that list?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to see.
I think Big 12 fans, that would be the one they're like, nope, not on. Give us UConn over Utah. I feel like there are some fans that in the Big 12.
There's some bad blood there.
Yeah, there is, because there's been a lot of trash talking, and obviously there's the BYU element as well that adds a whole lot of hatred in that direction. But, that would be Oregon and Washington for me. And then really, like, that would be so huge that I don't even care. Like, just name the team that you want to throw in there. Oregon State, got a lot of respect for them. Cool. Washington State, same, cool. Like, I'd be on board with just about anybody if you were able to pull the Ducks or Huskies. I'm not saying that I think that any way that it's going to happen, because that just seems like the pipe dream of pipe dreams and not that all realistic, but it seems a lot more realistic than it ever has before, just based on the last 24 hours. So, yeah, that's what I would do, and then just name a team for 3. I don't really have a real preference as far as that goes.
Yeah, I don't either. And our good friend and fellow podcaster, John Kurtz, $4.99 Super Chat. Keep up the great work, boys. Same to you, John.
Thank you, John.
We got to meet face-to-face at Big 12 Media Days a couple weeks ago.
Appreciate, respect what you do, and fellow Big 12 media brethren, so to speak. Yes. And good to see you at Media Days, and see you soon, and appreciate you.
Yep. How long should, this is from Adam Vulture, which is a pretty cool name, by the way. Sounds like a comic book guy. Mm-hmm. How long should Oregon and Washington wait on the Big Ten? See, that's an interesting conundrum, because if you're to believe the Big Ten and what Tony Petitti said just yesterday, was that yesterday? Yeah, I think yesterday or the day before when he made his address.
I believe it was yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. He said, look, the directive has been to focus on USC and UCLA and figure out the 16-team, thing, because this is not, like, football-wise, football is easy when it comes to figuring out scheduling, you're playing one game a week. That's it. You've got to do that 12 times. You've got to schedule. The problem comes in that when you're doing this and bringing these teams over for the, to actual logistics of the whole athletic department is how do we get the cross-country teams all over these places and schedule that out? How do we do this? And they don't know in the Big Ten how they're going to do that with the California schools just yet. So the directive has been to stop their pause on realignment so that they can figure out what they're going to be in this new iteration next year. But now that there's new realities of the situation that the PAC might be falling apart, maybe they don't have to wait that long. So
yeah, that's really was the wild card here, right? Was what just happened with Colorado. Mm-hmm. Because I think for the longest now, the thought process behind Oregon and Washington to the Big Ten was just that would inevitably be what the Big Ten would do. They would, expand farther west, and then, there was a little bit of a change in tune when the ACC started to show some cracks of like, well, maybe they're actually going to wait that out, or wait for something to break ACC-wise, and so you don't really know where the Big Ten's coming from now. Although Tony Petitti, who's taking over for Kevin Warren, did say that, that is on the back burner. It's not at the forefront of their minds, expansion. Instead, it's NIL. It's onboarding the LA schools. It's scheduling. It's this new TV deal. It's all of these different things. But good and dang well that they could if they're really playing it smart, and I have seen this at least mentioned on our show or maybe read it somewhere of the idea being not so much the Big Ten going in pursuit of the Huskies or the Ducks, but just sitting back and waiting and letting it all play itself out and watching Brett Yormark from afar and what kind of chaos or rift he can create. And sure enough, he came in there and he plucked away a Pac-12 school, and now this foundation that they were on has more cracks than it's ever had. And sure, if Oregon was to say, you know what, we're bolting, we're out of here, the Big Ten would probably give them a call and say, so what options are y'all looking at, or what kind of dollar figures? And you know what? I'm sure there could be a conversation that would lead to them agreeing to some sort of a situation where for cheaper than they would have gotten otherwise, they can unload a program like an Oregon and add to the mix. Now, I don't know how USC and UCLA would feel about that. I don't know how the other schools would feel about that. But the theory is that you could get the Ducks or the Huskies at more of a bargain without really doing the whole pursuit thing by just letting Yormark and this whole Pac-12 situation resolve itself. And now with the Colorado move, I think that door's at least cracked open, that if you're the Big Ten, you're not going and walking through it, but you got your eyes on it, and you're going to probably be ready if, something were to occur where potentially some major shifts could happen and you can get it at the right time for the right price and the right situation.
Yep, absolutely. All right, a couple more. Mike Terry, I realize UNLV isn't great, but that Vegas market, I don't think, look, UNLV is getting their ducks in a row to try to do this, and they're in a great, huge, ever-expanding, exploding market in every sense of the word. People moving to Vegas, sports in Vegas, all of that. I do think that they're, obviously not going to be the first choice, but you saw the McMurphy tweet. They'd be in consideration.
Yeah.
And I do think that if the PAC does manage to save itself and the Big 12 eventually does want to go to 16, the three schools that aren't UConn, because I do think it'd probably be UConn first because it's the one. But I think the three schools that aren't UConn, or if San Diego State goes to the PAC or whatever, then they'll find some way to get UNLV would be in that. UNLV and Memphis and probably USF, I would think, would stay in that mix for a little bit. But USF and Memphis, unlike UNLV, have some facility work to complete. They're trying to get it done. Memphis' stadium getting redone. USF, that's going to take some time to get that.
They approved it, though, right?
They approved it, but there's some people that think that it won't ever happen.
Okay,
it's one of those things.
I hadn't followed up, all right.
Yeah, so they approved the upgrade, the building, the on-campus facility and all that. So we'll see.
That seems like a death knell if they're not going to move forward, because that's the kind of stuff that you just got to do and then hope it works out on the other end. I feel like with the game of conference realignment, it's kind of like if you were to ask Memphis right now, and I know it's a lot more complicated than just simply like flipping a switch and you build facilities, but had they known what was coming, Do you think they maybe take a different approach to the last several years and how they
and
went
look,
about?
They're an AAU school, USF
Yeah.
is. So they just got put in the AAU. So they've got good things going on. But I
think Memphis has had like the door open and closed like a couple of times now,
Yeah.
and they've never quite been ready or the right choice. And so, you start to kind of wonder of like, well, how many more doors are going to open at this point? And if anything, the big word that's been going around, right, is contraction. Not as much expansion.
And look, but the one thing that is expanding is the college football playoffs. So
Yes.
even if you are stuck, and I don't mean to use that term, but stuck in the AAC,
we're not snobs.
No, but like if you're there, if you wanted to move and you didn't, and you have to stay where you are. Well, now that there's 12-team playoff, then I think you probably owe it to your athletic department to make everything as good as you can, so you can get into that whenever you can. It's not going to be as easy to do as the Power 5 will, but there's a chance now where there wasn't before.
Yeah, and as far as the message itself and UNLV, like I totally get why Vegas is super attractive. I mean, it's blowing up in the best kind of ways, athletics-wise and entertainment-wise. It's always been, a crown jewel, but now sports entertainment's become a calling card, and I'd love for media days in Las Vegas like the Pac-12 just had. That would be awesome. Do it anyways, even if you don't have UNLV.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how they're weighed, okay? I don't know enough about every aspect of them to know how the market and how it's just exploding and growing at a rapid rate, and all the pro franchises that are showing up there now, and gambling's part in sports at every, seeming turn, at every turn it seems like. I don't know how that's outweighed by where their size, matters, or where their TV ratings, or whether, like how the other factors are weighed in. I don't know how that works exactly in the eyes of those folks who are determining how UNLV shapes up. On paper, though, having a school in Vegas, having a presence there, expanding west makes perfect sense. But there's clearly something that prevents them from just being that automatic, not just for the Big 12, but for the freaking school that just had Pac-12 media day, or the conference that just had Pac-12 media days there. And is clearly looking to expand. So an interesting time for the Rebs. And I don't think it'll be the Big 12 probably calling first, but I am very curious about them. And just the whole presence of Vegas has to at least be somewhat of an allure for the decision makers out there. But just maybe not one enough to trump some of the other options that are out there right now.
Absolutely. And finally, from Mike H. Great show as usual, boys. Always enjoy listening to you from the Kansas City area.
Thank you.
And Mike, I love the Kansas City area, and one day I'm going to take Craig back for 48 full hours because he only got to be there for a minute before.
Yeah. So my Kansas City experience is, one, I love Patrick Mahomes, watched him in high school, covered his games for a couple years, and to see the kid who was making these insane types of plays that he's making right now at the high school, like 4A Texas level, to becoming the greatest football player, maybe when he's all said and done, arguably of all time, is crazy. But I love KC for that reason, because I love Patrick. But my other thing with KC is the fact that the only time I've been there, I was there for less than 24 hours, because that's when COVID hit, that very day, that next morning, actually, after I had arrived. And the whole world in our lives changed pretty quickly after that. So that was my one and only trip to Kansas City, less than 24 hours for the Big 12 basketball tournament. And I'm sitting there in the hotel room with my co-host at the time. He'd showed up like a couple hours earlier. I had been on an earlier flight. We're watching SportsCenter, and Rudy Gobert. Y'all remember that? Rudy Gobert's touching the microphones, making a joke out of it. And next thing you know, we wake up a few hours later, and we were departing Kansas City after doing a show, and didn't even make it 24 hours. So shout out to KC. I will make it back. I will have fun and hopefully run into some of you folks out there, because I hear great things. I just didn't get to see much of it myself. So appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And go, please, if you're in Kansas City and watching us, go on down to Q39, get you some burn ends, and enjoy your life. One of my favorite places to go on planet Earth. I also love Joe's Kansas City, Jack's. I love them all, but the burn ends at Q39 are life-changing, absolutely life-changing. I was a better person after I ate them. I'm just telling you. Like
good, huh?
Yeah, I just felt like I needed to contribute more to the world after that.
I don't even know what meal I had. It wasn't barbecue from any famous place. I know that.
Because you guys landed, went to get your credentials, and went to the hotel. Like, you didn't have time to go anywhere. Yeah.
No. I walked around a block to get a like a snack or something from like the convenience store downtown. That's all. I have to be back. I have to go back to Kansas City. That's the point, because COVID can't be my lasting memory from that trip.
There's a great grocery store down right down in the Power and Light District. It's like one of those like fancy grocery stores, like a deli and everything. I love going there when I'm there and staying for the Big 12 tournament. Anyway, Kansas City tourism advice aside, it's time for the top 5. We'll do that right next.
The future's bright, the time is now. College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com. Everyone, when they think of Wagyu, the first thing they think about is beef, and that's obviously what you guys specialize in, and you raise it right there from your pasture to the customer. The fillets, you have ribeyes, you have New York strips. I've tried them all. These are always available, correct, by ordering online?
Yes, everything's available, TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order one package of steaks up to as many packages as you want. All the steaks come 2 steaks per package. We've got New York strip fillets. The fillets are so tender you can almost cut them with a fork. Ribeyes. We've got top sirloin, and we've got regular sirloin, and even flat iron, flank steak, and flap steak. They're all great.
Oh, that sounds great. Fajita meat?
Yes, we've got skirt steak and flank steak that we use for fajita meat.
Samantha Duvall's the marketing director with Aaron Duvall, of course, in the Duvall family. What they've done, family-owned, operated, and they run TexasBeefHouse.com. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu, not just steaks, but also so much more. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, PettyClinicLowT.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 reasons this is happening to the Pac-12. Number 5, terrible market conditions. This was not the time to negotiate a media deal. Now, they still could have gotten one done, and still may. But the terrible market conditions on the media deal with ESPN restructuring and going through layoffs, with Fox just gone even bigger on the Big Ten, with CBS going big on the Big Ten, with NBC going in on the Big Ten, with the SEC taking up even more real estate on ESPN. It was just a bad situation for them all the way around. But that being said, there could have been a way through this. Also, other bigger things going to market, in coming years hurt them. So that didn't help. This was not their fault. They don't control the American economy as much as they would, I'm sure, like to. But yes, the terrible market conditions certainly led into that.
Yeah, it did. But, you had the hopes that, Apple's going to step up to the table or whatever. And, yeah, it just so happened that streamers were starting to cut hundreds of millions of dollars from their studios. Not all of them the same, of course, or, to varying degrees. But it was not the explosion of spending from everybody and anybody that it was just a year prior to that. It felt like it wasn't the boom that we had seen. And it did seemingly turn on maybe not on a dime, not that quickly, but pretty quickly. And so, yeah, what you thought was going to be this big, vast open window with a number of suitors and tons of cash actually got narrowed down pretty quickly, whether you're talking about the actual suitors or the money itself. And so, yeah, that was something that, to Brett Yormark's credit, or to whoever suggested him, I'm of the belief that he probably was as involved as anybody because of his media background. That's part of the reason why you got him. And this is also the thing for the Pac-12 is, how did that media guy see it, and our media guy who we hired as commissioner didn't see this coming. But you saw Yormark and company get very proactive because they knew that this was looming. They knew that it wasn't going to keep expanding. If anything, it was going to start subtracting. And they saw the writing on the wall. They saw that they weren't going to market for yet another year after the Pac-12. They looked at the spots on ESPN and Fox and everywhere else, and they saw that there weren't going to be many places available if the Pac-12 went, soaked a lot of those up. And had they not done that, then they're in the same position the Pac-12's in now. So, yeah, absolutely. The whole thing keys on the Big 12 going to market first, and then that leading to the timing of it just being a terrible market with more limited spots and limited money for the Pac-12.
Well, and that leads into number 4, the Big 12 cut in line.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing about this, though. The Big 12 did cut in line, but Brett Yormark correctly assessed that, why is there a line?
Yeah.
There's not a line. Let's just go ask if we can renegotiate ours. And they didn't even really renegotiate. They kind of just took the deal that was on the table, with some kickers in it. Mm-hmm. And, they knew, because they saw like things are about to get wild here, and they got their future solidified. And they negotiated for, all right, so what if we add more teams? They didn't have to go back to the table. So it's everybody they go to, they can just drop the sales pitch down on the table and go, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Here's why we want you. Here's what we can promise. Here's the deal that you're getting. You don't have to worry. We'll sell you on the Big 12 as much as you want, but here's what you'll be getting. And the Pac-12 couldn't do that.
I mean, last Friday, Rick George was there in Las Vegas wanting to see some numbers, and they'd had enough delays and enough kicking the can down the road, so to speak, and he couldn't see numbers. But if he FaceTimed Brett Yormark right after that, Brett Yormark could hold up a piece of paper and say, this is official, this is done, this is negotiated, and this is exactly what you're going to be making in these years, and for how long, and on what networks, and la-di-da-di-da-da. He could show him proof. And that's one thing that George Kliavkoff and the Pac-12 do not have yet still. And so, they cut in line, so to speak, but I think it was just smart to say, do we have to, were we waiting in line here? Do I have to wait behind them, or can I just go when I want to and get, and make something happen? Well, yeah, you realize you can just go when you want to. There's no waiting around for somebody else to go first. So go do what you feel is best. They did, and that was the the move of all moves in terms of this conference, and now looking at the future of it.
Number 3, they refused to expand when they had the chance. The Big 12 was on the canvas, man. They were on the canvas, and you could have probably completely destabilized their league by picking up the phone.
Which time are we talking about?
When Texas and Oklahoma left.
Yeah.
They could have done it. Now, granted, they had some outside factors in that.
But I'm just saying they could have done that multiple times. They could have done that when Texas and Oklahoma were still in the Big 12.
They could have gotten Texas and Oklahoma.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, granted, the reason that didn't happen, I don't blame them on the Texas thing because of the Longhorn Network.
Yeah.
Had Texas let that go, they'd be in the Pac-12 right now, and we'd be, I don't know, we wouldn't even be here in the studio. I don't know. The butterfly effect of that would have,
who knows?
Would have really made things complicated. But yeah, no, they didn't want that then. They didn't. They've had the chance to expand, to get bigger, to get out in front of this, and they never did. And now they've lost 3 teams in 1 year with no answer to their current members and their fans with what they're going to do.
And for some people, that will be okay because they chose their culture, so to speak, or their place in academics above athletics. And that's their right. That's what you choose to do. But there is some fallout from that, and we're seeing it today. And we're going to continue to see it in some form or fashion. So, yeah, they have definitely an opportunity when they're sitting there just rethinking things and, well, how could this have gone different? Well, there's going to be a lot of chapters of what if with the Pac-12, and certainly there's been multiple times where they probably could have picked on the Big 12 and grabbed some teams, but especially this last time around when, you had a Stuart Mandel writing that, and I know he's said differently since then, but, they could have gone and just delivered the kill shot, and they're like, no, we're too good for those schools, and moved about their business. And now you can see why some Big 12 fans are enjoying the news today.
Yeah. Hey, Maxwell, real quick pause on this. If Oregon and Washington do join, guess the % chance for it happening this week and or 2 weeks. I don't know. And somebody else asked if there's the same deadline of August 1st for the other schools. I don't think that's going to be true. I think they wanted to start the ball rolling by August 1st, and then maybe they'll give everybody else a couple more days past that to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know that you give them a deadline of like you got to join by August 1st. Yeah, I think that this kind of, if anything, soothes the process a little bit.
Look, they made the mark that they needed to make.
Yes, exactly.
They got it rolling.
The first move, and so now they can kind of like just sit back and like let a lot of this all now play out. Because now, like, what are Oregon and Washington hearing in that meeting right now? And what are they thinking coming out of that? So like kind of let some of the other stuff occur and then deal with that as it goes. But yeah, I wouldn't put a high percentage on those two particularly right now, but I will say that whatever my percentage used to be, it's higher now than it's ever been before in regards to those two, just because of the way things have shaken out. So yeah, I wouldn't put like anything substantial on it. I'd say like 10% chance, but it's better than the 2% chance that I thought for the longest time.
Yep. Number 2, years of poor leadership. And Larry Scott had a lot of big ideas that didn't work out. The Pac-12 networks and DirecTV essentially torpedoed that. I've never watched a program on the Pac-12 networks. And if it's college football, I've gone and found it somewhere. I've even had to watch the Longhorn Network. As much as I really was mad that it was added to my cable package, I've watched it because I've had to watch games that are on it. So if there was a game I wanted to watch on it, I'd have found it, but they could not get on DirecTV, and that torpedoed them. And then they had this problem with Comcast, and there's all this subterfuge and possibly illegal activity going on there and money that they owe. And then George Kliavkoff stepped into a situation that I don't think he had all the facts to, and I'm giving him a lot of credit here, and then kind of bought the party line of everything's fine. But right now, he's like Kevin Bacon at the end of Animal House. Like, all is well. Mm-hmm. All is well. All is well. Yeah, no, right. It's not, man. It's not. You were in a bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's Larry Scott did a lot of damage that they didn't ever quite recover from, and, George was brought in to correct that, and if anything, intentionally or not, added to it. So, yeah, poor leadership has gotten them to where they are. They should have made a move last year to expand or sometime within the last year rather than now being almost forced to just to basically survive. Should have been more aware of the possibilities that, no, not everything is okay with all of the schools. And, yes, Colorado might want to make a move, but it just seemed like they refused to believe that was a possibility just because of hubris or whatever you want to chalk that up to. So, yeah, leadership definitely bit them in the butt, not just Scott, but in so many ways, whatever factored into the decisions that Kliavkoff was making as well. And on the flip side, Bob Bowlesby wasn't universally loved, but by the end, he took a strong stance and he helped the Big 12 basically plug the holes and prevented it from sinking and moved very quickly after the OU Texas mess and then exited gracefully with his head held high because he did the best probably thing of his entire job there at the very end, right, with just keeping it afloat. And then Yormark's obviously done some tremendous work in just changing the perception and shifting the narrative and all of that. I do want to mention real quick, and we do need to run here, but Rick George said there will be less travel in the Big 12, playing in more favorable time slots where they can get greater national exposure. But here's the deal. How much we're talking about linear and streaming and all this stuff over the last year? Streaming is the future. Streaming is the future. A lot has been made about linear partners in today's day and age. Fox and ESPN are who we want to be aligned with. So that's from Colorado's Rick George.
Yep. Also, the poor leadership, that extends to the presidents of these universities, too.
Sure, yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
Like, everybody who's on the executive committee, all of that.
Sure.
This is all on you. Like, George Kliavkoff has marching orders, and those come from those presidents. So, same with Larry Scott. Those guys were not, they have not done what they're supposed to do, but they do have getting their marching orders from people who also not doing what they're supposed to do. And number one, lack of self-awareness. And this kind of maybe bleeds back into that leadership a little bit in that, look, from the minute USC and UCLA left, they have yet to deal with the fact that they're gone and just juxtaposed it to the Big 12. It was like, honestly, the tact was after the first couple days of how could you do this? It was like, all right, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord spits you. We're going ahead. And as where
kind of like they're reacting with Colorado in some cases already, of like San Diego State and SMU are an upgrade. Yeah.
But USC and UCLA, it's just like they didn't admit to themselves like they're gone. After this year, they're not playing games in your league anymore.
Yeah.
And in their media negotiations going on, I just have this feeling where they're saying, well, we should get this much because this is what we had before. And they're like, yeah, but LA is gone. They're like, yeah, but we're in LA. Like, but you're not. But you're not. And those were, especially USC, those were your best numbers. You've lost your best ratings. You've lost them. Steve Carell has left the office. It's a different show now, man. You cannot just come to us and say it's the same because it's not. And I think they kept going back, and in their own minds, a lot of them, the power brokers, just could not get that out of their head that things were different.
That, and in some cases, probably just didn't care, I suppose, because I think you had to have a mixture of both. But yeah, certainly there was one line of thinking, and then there was the actual way of things, and hard lesson to learn. I don't know if it'll sink in for everybody involved or if they'll learn all that much from it, but you would hope so for the Pac-12 fan base's sake and just for their future. But yeah, there was a little bit of that definitely going on, and the chickens have come home to roost today, and we'll see what else occurs here because the ball is rolling now, baby, and it's going to be fascinating to see how everybody reacts moving forward.
Absolutely. Thanks to Jim Williams. Thanks to Rhett Lashley. It was a little bit realignment related at the beginning, but he's always great. Super always excited to talk to him. And thanks to Max Olson, the Athletic. Tomorrow in the 4 o'clock hour alone, we've got Stuart Mandel and Brett McMurphy giving us all the latest on realignment and how this all came down. This is 365 Sports. For Craig Smoak, I'm Paul Catalina and the cast of thousands here. Good night, everybody.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.